Come on.
3
3.
damage.
Yep. Takes 2.
Okay. Oh, he's fine. He's not gonna die.
chilling, dudes painting.
Yeah, he's get delayed by his grandma, I think.
Mm.
Damn old people being old and stuff. No,
No, dude, that's literally my life and my job, man.
it looks like my stream is working. Cool. Is it? Yeah, it is doing that. Okay. I was thinking we can kind of go over based off of like Grand Alliances, going through the list rather than just top to bottom, because I'm gonna like talking about the same factions with random splits and stuff like that. It gets weird.
Yeah.
For those of you who are actually watching this, because I'm streaming right now, Matt Abbott is joining us, so it's going to be me, Noog, and Matt Abbott. I think, Matt, aren't you the currently #1 in painting on ITC?
No, not since Everwinter. I got knocked down a couple spots.
How dare you?
I mean, I let it. I know, right? Fucking
you failed
failure.
me for the last time.
I mean, I let it. Nah, but I let it for most of the season.
Yeah.
If I was making it to LBO, I'd probably still place top 3, but life happens.
Yeah. Oh well. But I mean, leading the entire year up until the last like month is pretty damn good still. So.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what is taking me so long to get on here. Don't. Most of the people who are playing in SoCal Masters or Southwest Masters are in this event, but not all of them. So I was wondering if we should talk about Southwest Masters during it or not. But
are lists and stuff updated, or are we talking about players?
I mean, people probably change their list, so who knows? I will save that for next week before LVO and stuff like that.
Yeah. And there's like a final roster, or people still like decide.
Yeah,
it's
a final roster. They finally the Southwest Masters last year it was like top 12 or top 10, and this year it's only top 8 players.
Yeah.
And
gotcha. I'm just wondering if everyone's confirmed or not.
I think the cutoff was the end of the month, but
yeah,
one of the players, Noe, might not be attending. So 9th place, which is Kyle, might get in.
Heal.
Yeah, he's only like 1 point underneath 8th place or whatever. So it's like whatever. He's so close anyway. But it's going to be a pretty cool tournament for that one. It's single elimination, so who knows how many rounds I might play. Maybe just show up early in the morning, play one round, and hang out in Vegas before LVO, which would probably honestly be the best case scenario in some ways.
See, a single elimination finals tournament, just like God intended.
Exactly. That's how Masters Championships should be, in my opinion. Like,
we need no weird round robin, Swiss parents multiple rounds. Hell no.
Because there's so few people, and like every game's gonna be good. It's just a quick bam, 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 get it done.
Yeah.
But the prize looks amazing. The big like Mjolnir hammer.
Yeah.
Man, where the heck is Noog? That boy is slow. Whatever. I mean, we can kind of just get started. He'll probably jump in. We can start with some stuff. So, Noog Year, for those who don't know, it's a small town event, which is basically like Old Town is like the big tournament series in Old Town Throwdown is a big tournament series here in SoCal, and they're really big events. The small town ones are like little events that we hold. Is like, for example, right before LVO, it's like a practice event, so it's up to 40 people capped at that. A little bit less stressful. It's usually like more of a fun practice type event, more of a friendship type thing, but they're still competitive. And seeing as LVO is coming right up, I'm sure like everyone's kind of biting at the bit to like see some list text, see what people might be bringing. And I think pretty much anyone who's in this tournament, unless the tournament shows them that they should not be playing that list, they're probably going to bring something very, very similar. So it's a little taster of what some people may be bringing to LVO.
Yeah. Probably like minor adjustments.
There he is. There we go.
My grandma was having a meltdown. She was just basically being like, I'm so like, and I feel for her. Like, but she was like, I'm so lonely. You guys have to go to work and like everything. I'm at home alone. Yada yada yada.
Yeah.
And It's just
Yeah, stuff happens. It's life stuff.
yes.
No problem.
And I felt
started the
bad.
stream, so like the stream's live right now. I just was talking about what small town is and stuff like that.
Okay, so
Consider it
Ah.
it's a state-sponsored practice.
how are
Major
we
small
able
town.
to
We're pretty
tune in?
So
I guess like how.
we just open up the best coast pairings on the website so we can look through the list, and I'll say which ones we're talking on and we can open them up. I'm streaming my web screen basically to show what list we're talking about, and everyone's voices are recorded and stuff like that.
Oh, okay, so it's live right now. Okay.
Yeah, quick check.
That's
on
why I
everyone.
was
Can you
wondering.
guys hear people who aren't me? The chat people over here.
Is there any way we can do like a shared like call? I guess where we all
We
are
could,
able to.
but I mean, there's no harm in people joining in us on the Discord thing, and it's I couldn't record the call and the I'm sure you can, but I couldn't figure it out in time. And show the list at the same time easily. It would take a lot of extra work, but I'll figure that out by next time.
Oh, okay. Well, I was hoping. Is there any way we could upload this to YouTube?
Yeah.
Because I know we. Okay,
Yes,
sweet.
I'm recording it. So, someone was asking who's playing Bone Splitters. It's right here, Ryan Dugan.
A goddamn legend. That's who's
Legend.
playing.
I know. It was the last time we saw someone actually play Bone Splitters. It's pretty dope.
2 years ago, when the big stabbers were a thing.
Yeah, that was pretty scary, admittedly. And then
Yeah, locally that was played by Greg and Tom Guad, who had all of SoCal big stabbers. Like we had the entire country's market of big stabbers.
yeah, it was so many. It was like 80 big stabbers in one place.
Yeah, I don't know why we had that many big
Cornered
stabbers.
the market. Really, just top tier investing.
Stonks.
So yeah, the Happy New Year or New Year. I actually don't know how you prefer it said, but I flipped.
keep-
New Year, yeah.
Yeah, Happy
I
New
keep
Year.
wanting to call it. I keep wanting to call it November because of the last Noog
This is the
event.
last one. Yeah,
It's like, but it's like no, it's January.
It did slide off the tongue nicely. Although, to clarify with everybody, I didn't name this New Year or New November just because of my ego. I did it because of community peer pressure. So let it be known that like I didn't do this just
wow,
for my own
okay.
ego.
Well, I won't even admit that you're just full of ego. Okay, I see how it is.
Right,
Like,
bro. You literally just
own
want
your shit.
you just want Rob Symes to say it.
Hey,
You
he's the one
just
that
want him to say, "Hey, I created the Noog." That's
he's
all you
literally the one that started it. So because he's English and can't pronounce my last name, but you know, here we are now.
Hey, maybe you should have been colonized by the English. That's on you, man.
So, God damn it.
Well, that's another topic for another day. But
Nuge is hosting the tournament, so he's not actually playing in it. So you won't see him on these lists because he's running the event basically, and doing the hosting. So he's gonna basically weighing in on his thoughts from like outside perspective, not just as a player. Although he obviously is a player and he's playing in LVO and stuff like that. Yeah, so like, I told him right before you joined. I told him like what it's a practice event basically for LVO, although obviously its own tournament, of course. So there's 28 players. We're pretty much just going to go over the lists and what we think about them, and maybe some bigger picture stuff as well as we go. I was thinking that we go through by Grand Alliance rather than just top to bottom, because then if it's the same faction several times, it's easier to like have the conversation be like.
yeah, I guess if the conversation's consistent, sounds good to me.
Yeah. I was gonna start with chaos on these ones. I don't know why. I just figured that was the way to do it. So I think the first list we should talk about is Ben Hoskins' list, which is a super cool list. Hopefully you guys both have it open on your thing, but I'm sharing the screen about it. So like the quick like TLDR of what his list is, it's Ravagers. So basically, with a heroic action, he can bring back half size of these little cultist units and the small shoddy characters like Dark Oath War Queens and stuff like that. And you can grind out like a long game with them. So he's got 60 Splintered Fang, which are big like mortal wound damage output units that are super crazy cheap. Untamed Beast, Corvus Cabal, the Unmade, so like a bunch of these little small units. Chaos Gargant, 2 Mind Stealer Sphere Anxes, and then he's got a collection of characters: 2 Sorcerer Lords, a War Queen, and Be'lakor. The idea is basically he's gonna like grind out a long game. He's gonna hold you down, lock you down, and outmaneuver you using Be'lakor and all these summonings and out of phase.
Also, with how it works is that the heroic action Rally the Tribes is when any of the heroes outside of Be'lakor, they can bring back a unit at half strength, and they can do this in both hero phases. Another thing that makes it really strong is that, and it's probably going to get FAQ'd, but that's not important right now. But another reason that makes it good is that it can move right away. So usually when you summon something or you move, it cannot move like in the movement phase. It requires a charge. But right now, barring an FAQ, Epic Ravagers Cultist units can move immediately. So you still have to summon it outside of 9 inches, but they can still move 6 inches, and then they just need a 3-inch charge most of the time.
It's super.
And he can also bring back the War Queen with the list. So
that caught me off guard when I first fought. I was like, wait, you can bring back the small character too? Like, it's super hard to shut down. Like, it's gonna play 5 turns. You're not gonna stop it from doing it. Like, it's gonna do its thing.
Yeah. Its grand strategy is also Dominating Presence, where it needs 4 units wholly within each table quarter by the end of the game, which is pretty reliable for this list.
Yeah, because it's so good at bringing guys back. And it's got a lot of crazy tech in this thing, man.
I mean, it's Soulblight Zombie Splam in a Chaos flavor with a couple extra steps. You're gonna kill a lot of his stuff, and he's just gonna bring it all back. Yeah. And he's gonna chip at you the whole time. He's gonna hold the board.
A surprising amount of damage while he's doing it. Yeah,
exactly.
What helps to do a lot of damage is that they're 3 attacks each, 4s to hit, 2s to wound, 6s to hit, do mortal wounds. So you're just doing a lot of mortal wounds. Combine that with Horror Frost, and even though a lot of the army's on a 5-up save, the Might Sealer Cats are there to make things fight last. So that tech is, if they roll a dice at the start of each combat phase, within 9 inches. If they match your leadership or beat it, then they make you fight last. So he has 2 sources of it, so even if he gets alpha or charge, he's always able to control the fights most of the time. Works really well against most armies outside of death or demons, but still, I mean, even if you roll all you need is to roll a 10 realistically, and then you're making an OBR unit fight last. So it's solid.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like, it isn't good in every matchup necessarily, but when it's good, it's incredibly good. And he's not the most damage heavy army ever, right? But he does enough damage where if he's hitting you first, it's really it's just difficult. He grinds you down with that stuff. He's on a big tear with this list for sure. I think he went 5-0 with something very, very similar. He's got a couple 4-1 type results with it.
I mean, Ben's a great player. A lot of people aren't aware he actually won a golden ticket with this pretty much exact same list.
Yeah.
But great player playing pretty much the same consistent list for about a year. He's probably one of my top 3 picks for taking it out.
Yeah, he brought this to Worlds as well. I don't think it was exactly the same, but it was very close to this. It was within a unit or 2 of this list, and he did pretty darn well. I think he went 4-4 or 5-3, something like that, over the course of the event. But his losses were super close. It's really hard, obviously, but he did a good job.
Yeah. The fact that there's 0 Starborn players at this event.
Yeah, I think he's fought Starborn 3 times in a row, which is that is definitely a weakness that this list does not want to see that.
It also doesn't like tech lists either, but I mean, outside of that, it doesn't have a lot of bad matchups. So it's it's consistent. And I was the one that played against him at Bay Area Open for the title, and he took it in a really close game.
Yeah. So
curious to see how he would do against shooting, any kind of spam shooting. That might tip him off, but he's just got the recursion.
I think it very much depends on what kind of shooting, right? Because if it's burst shooting, KOs, he does not care. Oh, cool, you killed a unit. You killed 2 units. I don't care. But if it's that sort of sustained all game just type thing that grinds through you, I think that'd be pretty darn good against what he does. Because you can take out the supporting units, and then all he has is little crappy guys running around.
We'll have to see if there's any lists at the event that kind of operate like that.
I think mine might, but we'll get to mine when we get to order. I think it might be a bad matchup, but we'll see. So that's his list. I also agree. He's one of my picks to win the event. His list is super good. He's a very good player. He's very like technically proficient, like very precise, knows what he's doing. Very experienced on the list. So I agree. That's one of my picks for sure of like who could take this thing down. We're gonna move on to Brian Cox, who is playing BOC, Beast of Chaos, and he's playing All Herd, which is definitely not the common one. But I'm gonna pass this over to Nuge because he's the BOC expert to kind of talk about this.
Yeah, so this list is something that Brian and I have talked a lot to each other about, because while I've been boring and I've been playing the same Dark Walkers list of 9 Bulls and 30 Raiders because it's consistent, Brian Cox has actually done a lot of experimenting, and he's gotten results with Quake Fray, Gay Spawn, and now he's starting to do really well with this All Herd list that we've talked about. So essentially how it works is All Herd, their mechanic is that at the end, or at the start of, or I guess at the end of the Battle Shock phase, Gores, Ungores, and Ungor Raiders can be brought back D3 plus 3. Yeah, so it's actually like a very good amount of recursion. The only problem is that the save of most of the army is on a 5-up, so it's not really hard to blow up a unit. But that's what the strength of this list essentially is, that Gores, and he has 2 or 3 units of them with paired axes. They have 3 attacks each, so if you honeycomb, you can actually get most of them to fight, and then that's about 27 attacks on 4s and 3s, and then combine it with the Ren 1 damage, and if you give them all attack, it could actually trade well with Chaff efficiently. And another thing that makes the list too is that to support the 9 Bulls, the Gores, when they charge something, they have a rule called Mosh Pit, where if they charge you on a 3-up, it makes you fight last if they outnumber you. So not only does he have 2 units of Gores for the fight last tech, he also has the Beast of Chaos Zangor Shaman with Slitherak Helm. So in that Slitherak Helm, if it charges you on a 2-up, you fight last.
So he's got
right
the
now,
Slitherak Helm, he's got the Gores, and I believe does he have the trumpet? He does have the trumpet. So
yeah, trumpet. Yeah, trumpet is on the Doom Bowl, because essentially the reason why is that if you put it on any of the heroes, for those of you that don't play against Beast of Chaos, they have 4 special mechanics called Rituals of Ruin, but we really only use 2 of them, which is the hero cuts himself. You take D3 mortal wounds, but you can do D6 to an enemy within 12, or you do D3 to yourself and you pull them 2d6 closer to the hero. Fun fact: you can actually drag an enemy unit into combat as long as it's only with the hero and nothing else.
That's pretty.
But yeah, essentially, putting on the Doom Bowl means that you're not afraid of cutting your shamans who have 5 or 6 wounds, and then you just kill yourself by cutting yourself, because you always want to have a reliable summon. Because even though the fight last could be reliable on the Doom Bowl for countercharging and things like that, setting up the counter charge is not super reliable, so it's better to just go for consistency, which is why he has the Brave Blast Trumpet.
The Zangor Shaman, that's the one that flies around, so he can put himself in a position to charge where he needs to be. So that makes a lot of sense. There's also the really cool tech. He's got the One-Eyed Gronok. You don't expect to see a Gargan in BOC. I haven't seen that since this edition of BOC in anyone else's list, but he's been doing it pretty good with it, I think. He's done really well with RTTs.
So the fact of One-Eyed Gronok is that he's a Mega Guardian to start off, so he's 35 wounds. He's a hero, and every time he fights, he makes a giant -1 to hit within 6 inches of him. So with this list, you have essentially, and also because of what Brave Blast Trumpet does, you can summon another unit of Gores, so you actually have 4 sources of fight last, potentially, before your opponent. And that's what BOC, one of its biggest weaknesses is that it has low armor saves. So it needs the fight last to stay alive throughout the game, because we tend to die really fast after we come down round 2. And then
I have a question on that. With the Gores, is their fight last effect, is that on the charge, or is it just can someone charge you and they make you fight last?
It's on the charge.
Okay, so if you're coming into people, you're hitting them first most of the time here, and you can fight with multiple units and really get a good amount of tempo out of that. That's a lot of sources of that.
Yeah, and essentially, this list has so many hammers because usually BOC starts off the board, but One-Eyed Grenax on the board. And even though Mega Guardians don't have crazy damage, the fact that he's like 35 wounds that could just clear screen and just you have to deal with him. You can't really ignore him, and he's 400 points, which is really efficient in BOC points cost. So while there's a Mega Gargant running around, suddenly you have 9 Bulls and all these Gores and Zangor and Lighten running, charging you, messing you up, and then you have the rest of you have 2 units of Ungors and all the heroes that can just go around and score. And then in addition, the heroes can also trade with, for example, the Zangor Shaman having Blizzard because one per game he can get a +3 to cast. And then, everything in this list has a role in trades, and I think that's how you make the most optimal BOC list. Because if you don't if a unit doesn't have a role in your BOC list, it's essentially dead weight. So
yeah, because it's very very like lean and mean type army. Like you have to be doing stuff. It's
like if you look in the dictionary, the definition of glass hammer, you've got a picture of this list right here.
Yeah,
this list could definitely, it's going to get that punch in. It's not going to be able to take it back though.
Yeah, but what the All-Hurt is interesting though, because like it can't, like you don't quite finish off a unit, it suddenly becomes a big problem. I think that's kind of an interesting, like, because the Gores, like if you leave 1 or 2 alive and then D3+3 come back, it's like, oh, this is actually pretty bad. So like, if you don't focus them down, so it's kind of interesting. Like it gives them that little bit of extra survivability, extra stake in the game. Same with the Grunic, like they kind of it takes a little bit of the glass away. It's like a plexiglass hammer.
Yeah,
it's interesting. I haven't played against it myself, but I think it's pretty good.
Grunic could just be 40 more Gores though. Is he actually better than 40 Gores?
I think he just does a different job. And like Gore, I don't know if it's better or not. That's hard to say. Probably, but
maybe. But Brian's also done really well with this. Like he actually won a big 4-man RTT in San Diego like a couple weeks ago. So
yeah, I wouldn't say so. It's not that I don't have any feeling that Grunic is bad or whatever his name is. That the Gargant is bad. I just think that 40 Gores is better.
Especially in All-Hurt, I could definitely see that being the case because All-Hurt does make the Gores better. There is some downsides though, because like when it comes to like command points and stuff like that, like leveraging advantages and buffs and stuff like that is pretty hard on these Gore units. So like, but I
think the reason why he goes for it is because like Grunak is just consistent and his fighting's okay. He stops bravery within 3 inches, like inspiring presence, and he's hard to kill. And like if you really need him to, you just put Mystic Shield, Finest Hour, and all out defense. Like he's actually like not easy to lift.
Yeah,
which is like
it gives you some leverage in your command points. That makes sense.
Just a reminder, Blizzard is still a thing.
Yeah, Blizzard's just fucking fantastic.
Yeah, good luck to Brian Cox. He's representing Beast, and maybe he's actually.
Yeah, maybe he should try the Gores at some point, see how it works. But he's been doing great with that, so I think he'll probably do well. He's not my top 3 picks, but I would not be surprised if he does win it.
Yeah, glad to see. I'm just happy to see some good Beast of Chaos representation for once in SoCal.
Yeah, it's not some trash player.
So
we're gonna move on to a very spicy list from Cameron Becker. This is his Pyrophane cult list, which if I'm not close on accident. There it is. Which comes with a little story on the bottom. I'm going to read that out loud. Eero is on a quest to eat as much of the Andorian wild magic as they can for their master Tzeentch. After a near defeat at the hands of the Stormcast, Tzeentch granted them aid in the form of Uzil and his Silver Tower warriors. With reinforcements in hand, Eero and Owen now travel toward the Eye of the Magic Nexus. And I just love that he did that. Like, that's just dope. Because his leader is Eero, Eater the Storm, and Owen the Twisted, the Curseling. Super cool. I love that. Like, just a little bit of extra effort. That, like, it's just cool to see. I wish I would do that more often. But it goes a long way. But as far as the actual list, Pyrophane Cult, I don't think I've ever seen someone play Pyrophane Cult. I know.
You have what's the TLDR of what it does?
It buffs Carrick Acolytes, basically.
Okay.
I believe it gives them extra rend. I can't remember
just
exactly
on their.
what
Is it the extra rend on their shooting attack?
I think so. It's something like that. I know it buffs the Carrick Acolytes and makes them better. and he's playing a lot of Carrick Acolytes, so that does make sense. Like, you only really ever see some Guild of Summoners because of just the way the book is written. It's just a weird book, and like that's the one that just ends up working the best. But I think there is a lot of play to a lot of these other ones. I'm actually surprised that he doesn't have more Carrick Acolytes if he's playing the Carrick Acolyte faction, because he has 3 against a 10.
Yeah.
But they are really cool units. If you haven't played against Carrick Acolytes before, there's a lot of cool things, like they all have a cast and unbind, so you can like unbind from your units that are up front. And they can hit surprisingly hard for their points. They die to nothing, but like, yeah, whatever. It's kind of a chaff unit. But this stuff actually makes him hit a little bit harder. That's kind of cool. He's got the Gaunt Summoner, which is interesting.
He's going to try and keep something in reserve, or what's his plan with that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. He can keep something in reserve, but like, there's always like, that's the thing about these like crazy tech lists is like you see that you're like, okay, he's gonna do something with that.
Can he keep the Chaos? Can he keep those Chosen in reserve, or is that a? Oh yeah, because he's a Slaves of Darkness unit, so he should be able to take them with him, right?
Yeah.
Yes. He can put the Zinch. How that works is that he can put anyone with the Zinch keyword or like the Coalition unit into the Frozen or I guess the Wizard Tower, right? So essentially he hides the Chosen and then he brings them out from the Silver Tower, and then they just, because they have +1 to charge, so they just need an 8-inch charge coming out. You can't use Destiny dice to modify the charge to make them just auto go in, but it's still like saucy. It protects like the Chosen or any of his hammers.
Yeah,
Wizard Tower.
No one wants to deal with the fucking Chosen in their backline like that all of a sudden. That would be scary.
Yeah, I think the only caveat is that he has to make sure that when he puts things into the Silver Tower, that the hero doesn't die, because if he dies, then whatever he puts in the Silver Tower is dead too. So
that's a big risk.
Yeah.
I like this list, actually. I think it's pretty cool. I think I would actually like to play something like this and see how... Because I used to play Zinch a lot, but I got kind of bored with some of the gameplay style. It just wasn't for me. And this seems like fun and exciting. There's also a Vortex Beast, so you can't ignore friendly, in quotation marks, the Vortex Beast.
I mean, contrary to, like, you know, Shane's opinion, I actually think Zinch is, like, better than people think it is. It's just now harder to play. Like, I think it's still a good army. It's just, you actually have to try a lot more.
Yeah, you have to try really hard, and in my personal opinion, it can be a fairly miserable army at times. Like, it doesn't have to be, but, like, it can be that way. But I think this list is not like that. This list is super cool. Like, I would love to fight against this or play as it. This is really cool. It was just Kairos and stuff like that. I don't know Cameron Becker as a player too much, so I have no idea. Like, I have no prediction.
He's actually so he messaged me a couple of days ago before the list lock-ins, and he wanted to sign up for the event because he got into AOS during this edition, and he wanted to look for events, and now he's like, now he has enough time to go to his first like GT ever, and he's from the Ventura. He's from the Ventura area, so I know a couple of guys out there like Carlos and what's his name, the one that plays KO a lot. That's all the way from Ventura.
All right,
but yeah.
Well, I'm sure he's gonna have a fucking blast, and
dude.
His list is cool, and I love that he did all these flavor things on it, and I kind of want to start doing that more often.
Yeah, no, like I'm really excited to like meet him and like, you know, make sure going to his first event is like a good time. You know, there is, I mean, the SoCal, you know, is kind of a shark pit or a sea lion club.
Yes,
but
it can be a little bit rough. We have so many events down here that everyone gets so many reps that it gets real hard to win events, and but we're all super nice, so it's like, whatever. If you're gonna lose, you're gonna lose. I'm gonna go to Tyler Holt's list here because also Disciples is Ancient. While we're on the subject, like, we'll stick with it. I have played against Tyler Holt before, so he's playing Host Arcanum, which I think is really cool. It's a really good choice right now in the in this like super magic meta GHB. Just be able to like, oh, you rolled like 24 on that thing, dispel it automatically. Anyway, I think that's like really good. because people will be throwing stuff into it, and like it just disrupts like their tools to get past your magical dominance you have going on. So I think that's a smart choice, and I like that straight off the bat. I know that Abbott, you play a lot of Magic armies that are kind of like this. Are you familiar with Tzeentch?
The grand view. Let me take a look at this.
It's interesting that he has a Cygor in Tzeentch, and thankfully it doesn't affect friendly wizards.
Oh, that would suck so bad.
So he's really bringing anti-magic. Like, he's playing Host Arcanum and the Cygor. That's really interesting. He decided that he's not going to lose the Magic War. Shame on the Seraphon players. No fun allowed. You're going to die. It's pretty much what he came in.
Which is funny because there's like
-1 to cast.
No, he has 2 unbinds, and every time an enemy wizard gets a spell off, they just take a mortal wound.
I see. And in Tzeentch, sometimes you want to let your opponent cast.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't necessarily want to stop everything. You just want to stop the key ones, because you want to get your summoning points off of their casts.
Yeah.
So, but he's punishing you at the same time. You're going to take damage.
Yeah, he's definitely leaning towards the anti-magic versus the pro-magic that Tzeentch usually sees. That's kind of where Tzeentch has been struggling, I feel, this GHB, is just, they're the magic army, but when everyone's got good counter-magic.
Yeah, being like super consistent in casting spells is not as valuable when everyone else can now also be super consistent. But is it paying all these taxes for it? They're still a very good army, but like it definitely doesn't feel as good. But I like this kind of approach to it, where you're taking.
He also went Host Arcanum because in rounds 1, 3, and 5 he gets a free auto unbind. So I guess he really is like you guys are saying, focusing on the full denial aspect of it.
Yeah, which I think is pretty cool. Screamers are also just super good. This list, I have no idea how he's going to do with it. I think it's very matchup dependent on how this plays out. Like, if he fights like several Magic armies in a row, he's gonna have a very big advantage. But like, if he doesn't, he's kind of losing a lot of value playing these abilities in places where they're not as relevant. So I think he's kind of playing the matchup lottery a bit here, but it should be at least useful in every game. It's very rare to see no Magic. I think it's an interesting take on Tzeentch.
I'm glad we're seeing that little bit of experimentation. I feel like every Tzeentch list that's been the last couple months has just been summon more chickens and keep summoning chickens.
Yeah, just the chicken farm.
Or Tzeentch list with an incarnate.
Yeah, there's so few Tzeentch players, and like they kind of wrote themselves into a corner with that book where like it's hard to make it good without making it oppressive. So yeah, end up in that space. All right, let's move on to Khorne then. We got Evan. Evan's a very good local player. He went 7-1 at Nova with a very similar list to this, right?
Yeah, he actually did the best out of all of us, like record-wise.
Yeah, he did super good with this list. I know most of these Khorne lists look kind of similar in a lot of ways because it's always like Scarbrand and the Whip Thirster. With like always
you don't always see Scarbrand now. It's
actually
sometimes
people have been not including him every game. Like sometimes, but
Whip,
he's still
Whip
very
Thirster is
common.
100%. Yeah.
There's a couple priests floating around, a Bloodsecrator, and then he's got Surikar Blackwing, which is like an allied in Warcry Warband that has a wizard, and then these like outflanking guys. They're great for getting battle tactics, even though it kills.
Yeah, he's got Sakara for magic dominance, 2 units of claws. That's going to help him get, more guys out than in, and 2 battle edge. Khorne just their battle tactics, the army.
Yeah,
build their lists for that.
It's
hold
funny
you back
because
in.
like their initial army is like kind of bad at battle tactics, but you add like one ally in, and all of a sudden they're incredibly good at scoring points. And I think that's what this list is trying to do, right? It's just trying to outscore you. It's shut you down when it can, and just score points.
Yeah. So another thing that makes this list interesting is that he has because he's going Skullfiend Tribe. So the sub-faction of that is essentially they fight first on an 8-up to charge. So it doesn't say unmodified charge rules. That's charge rules. So the Unfettered Fury can give any Khorne unit that isn't a hero 3d6 charge. So he gives the Skull Reapers a 3d6 charge. So usually on average you roll an 8 plus. So then he's fighting first, and then suddenly he has and because he has Halo of Blood, which is another fight first artifact, he actually can make it so he has 3 activations before his opponent.
That's really nasty, honestly. Like, it's a surprise. And then, like, the Skull Reapers also, like, tend to surprise people with their damage. You want to say something? I heard something.
Skull Reapers have a lot of attacks, and they can sustain really well. Like, they're a 4-up save, 3 wounds each, but because of the Blood Secretor, he can make them rally on a 4-up. So he can actually just pin you with that unit while it does a lot of attacks, gets 6s to hit, also do mortal wounds in addition to normal damage. And then, he just has a good spread of, damage sources, and then he has tools because of how Khorne is to lock you down. And with how Khorne is, you can never, unless the Khorne player makes a huge mistake, you can never get a hard win against Khorne because they have so many tools like Blood Tithe and other forgiving mechanics to always stay in the game. Like
all the
when
lockdown, the like you can't get rid of their prayers most of the time. The summoning, it becomes super like it's really hard for them to get a blowout win, but it's also very hard for them to lose badly either. Like that makes them an amazing army to play like 5 or more rounds with because you're going like even if you lose some of your games, you're going to score well in them.
Yeah.
The only problem he has in this list is because of his Grand Strat. So how his Grand Strat works is that the opponent has to pick a hero that he needs to kill by the end of the game, and also at the same time he has to keep his general alive. So I think Khorne's biggest weakness right now is that they don't have reliable grand strategies. So I guess that's like the balancing factor.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think they would have a much higher win percentage.
I agree. I'll be honest, when Skull Reapers, I did not rate at all when I first saw them, and he's been doing really well with them. I was kind of surprised how well he's been doing with them, but he's been absolutely kicking ass with them. So
that's what I call the Evan tech right there. And he's my homie. I usually joke with him that he usually just picks whatever the net list is, but he's actually been playing a lot of Khorne for most of last year, and then he did a lot of trying things, and this has become his list. So I'm really happy for him that he's found something that works for him.
Yeah, I think if I had to guess, I would say he's probably going to end somewhere around a 4-1 area. Could go 5-0, might go 3-2.
Oh, easily.
Yeah, he's very practiced on this list. It's a good list. He's a good player, and there's some of the maps are a little harder for it, admittedly. Some of the bigger maps, it can be tricky, but if he can get a decent matchup into those ones, I think he can do very, very well. I'm expecting good things from that. Let's see is there any more Khorne players? There's definitely more Khorne players, right? Oh no, Terran's not in this one because he had to do the thing.
Yeah, Terran has a wrestling competition. Otherwise, he would have signed up.
Because we missed this earlier, going back to Slaves of Darkness, Will Warren, the Master and Commander.
Master and Commander.
I adore this list. It's so pure of heart. It knows what it is. It's 9 Varangard, 10 Knights, and then a couple characters, and it's a Corvus Cabal and a War Shrine. And it just kills things. It's 9 Varangard of Nurgle is almost impossible to kill and does a stupid amount of damage.
So the interesting thing is he actually split his weapons because you're allowed to do that with Varangard, where he has 3 of them with Spell Spears and the rest of them with Demon Forge Blades. So Demon Forge Blades profile is 3s and 3s, Rend 2, D3 damage. Every 6 to hit does a mortal wound. So he has a lot of weight of attacks, and then at the same time he has 3 Fell Spears because on the charge they're just flat Rend 3, just to punch through high armor saves. But essentially what this list wants to do is that it wants to charge you with all the Knights in Varangard and just pin you in while the rest of its army scores battle tactics and scores. And then at the same time, if anything can threaten the Chaos Knights or the 9 Varangard, he has Be'lakor there as a backup.
Who also has Demonic Speed, so he can do run and charge because he's next to the Empty Throne, and cast Demonic Speed to run and charge and then 3d6 charge with these guys and just get right into you. Or he can do it with the Chaos Knights, or both. So it's just can you beat this? It's like playing Garen. But in Warhammer, you just face check. Can you do the damage? Can you survive the damage? If not, you're gonna lose. But he's a super fun guy, and he makes the whole experience hilarious every time.
Yeah, he's like the king of getting drunk at events, and like this is the perfect like run it down list.
Yeah.
First turn.
Also, I think the War Shrine is a 3d6 charge too, so he actually has like multiple
that's
sources.
the Slanesh one. The Nurgle one, it gives him like some bonus to wound. Like it's like 6s do an extra damage or something like that. It's a weird one.
The man's gonna be Indian turn 1. Like
he's
with Andrew Butts. Something like that.
Something's getting into you turn 1, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then the other one's coming in turn 2, and you're like,
yeah.
You're in the struggle
bus. Except when he fails the charge.
Except for when he fails the charge and rolls 2 inches when he's 3 inches away twice. Which will inevitably happen because it's always like that. You're like, it's guaranteed. No, it's never guaranteed. Yeah, I just like the list. It's fun. It appeals to a certain. It scratches the itch for the monkey brain for me at least. So we've done most of the chaos. There's just Maggotkin left. There's Joe Cooper and Matt Jones, but we're gonna start with Joe because Joe is up top here. So they're playing Befouling Host, and I was looking at this list earlier, and I really like this list.
Yeah, Joe's also in the chat, so shout out to you. We're about to review your list.
Yeah, it's basically 2 Great and Clean ones with Slimix. So Befouling Host and Slimix, you basically make 3 trees right away. So it's going to be summoning a lot, and it's going to have a lot of coverage with those Narumals on where it can summon from. And it's got 3 Insta Plague Bearers, just kind of walk around and don't die, and then 2 Plague Claws. So those are going to be sitting in the back just shooting, and it's actually, I think it's pretty interesting because like you're causing these disease points on people and various chip damages, and the Plague Claws are giving them -2 bravery and doing damage as well. So there's like this constant like, it helps with that grinding factor that Nurgle has, and they're super safe because he's just got so much board presence.
Plague Claws are also ridiculously like cheap for their cost, where it's like their profile is 1 shot 2s, I think 2s and 2s or 3s and 2s, red 2 d6 damage. If it's against a unit that has 10 or more models, it's 2d6 damage.
Yeah. So they like 400 points, like they can just both miss, and you're like, whatever. Like it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually only 200 points of investment, which is nothing. And the nice advantage about them is because their range is like 30 or 40 inches, which is most of the table, you can literally sit them on the back objectives while the rest of your army pushes forward, which is what Nurgle wants to do.
Yeah, so they're probably going to be shooting 4 or 5 turns every game, like unless something goes horribly wrong, because Nurgle's just like, you're not going to get to them. Like there's just too much stuff in the way. You got the Nurglings, like 2 instant Nurglings, 2 Great and Clean ones, 30 Plague Bearers. They're just like gumming up the board and like grinding you down. Rotmire Creed and the Plague Claws are shooting you. And then he's summoning off of these like multiple trees, getting a ton of points for summoning everything.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of summoning points, so he could actually save the summoning points to where he can summon a Guo like turn 3 or turn 4.
Yeah, and there's a battle tactic with that as well, so it's like guaranteed points, summoning this big old nasty fucker. I probably shouldn't say whatever, who cares. And like I love this list. I think it's really cool. I would love to play something along these lines if I was playing Nurgle. I used to play a lot of Nurgle, so like I like this.
He actually won the a Geeky Tees little RTT yesterday, all the way up in LA with this. So it's got gas. And Nurgle, the points have went down so much where it's like you can run 2 Guos, a lot of Plague Bearers, and like the rest of the stuff, and just like it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but it's like really hard to shift. I am interested to see how it compares to some of the other Nurgle lists, where if they're running Glotkin, and see how he plays around not having a counter charge, which is what's making Nurgle really strong right now.
Yeah, like I mean, I think Nurgle's strong in a lot of ways, but yeah, it's not doing that, which like almost every Nurgle list I've seen is playing the Glotkin and playing off that. This one has more grind potential, though. Like, it really leans into what Nurgle is. So it'd be an interesting fight. Or it'd be a very boring fight. Who knows? Maybe this be slapping wet noodles against each other all night.
So the Guos actually hit hard, which is surprising. I think...
Well, they normally do, but these ones both have Doomsday Bells, which is more summoning points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn 1, you're getting 5 plus all your normal points, so you're getting like 4 additional summoning points compared to normal Nurgle list. but this comes at the expense of damage. This is definitely like a summoning oriented list.
Yeah. I'm not going to say they do no damage, but I have had a Starseer survive against Guo.
Yeah. So. Like, if they have the sword and the flail, they definitely do a pretty solid amount of damage, but these ones are not that. So they're going to be very... they can do damage, but not that much. It's more like...
I will say the one thing I do like about our SoCal region is that, like, we're always willing to try, like, weird stuff just to see, like, what works. And, like, hey, sometimes the weird stuff really pays off. So, props to you, Joe, for making, a really unique list. And I know that, like, with this event, a lot of people are testing their LVO lists. So, yeah, let's see what happens.
I hope it does well. I would love to see it do well. I think it'll do at least solidly. I'd be surprised if it does worse than 3-2, but you never know. But it's hard to predict on that kind of list how it's going to do. All right, next you have Matt Jones. Jones is bringing the Jones special, which is I'm gonna punch you in the face with fat sick things. So he's got Blobe, and Orgots, the Glockkin. So we're talking about Glockkin is a countercharging lockdown piece that's also very fighty. There's a Poxbringer here with Shaman of the Chilled Lands and the Witherstave. It's interesting. Shaman of the Chilled Lands is an interesting command trait for this. I don't know if I would have picked that, but it might pay off big time. I'm curious to see how it plays out in the games.
So it's nice because it lets him have Blizzard just in case someone tries to alpha him, or he can like buff one of the heroes with Hoarfrost on one of their like low rend attacks. So like it's actually like interesting tech piece. I always think that Shaman of the Chilled Winds is like a really good command trait for a lot of armies. It just competes with like a lot of choices, and I think it's something that you have to build around.
Yeah, so like this is something that's kind of defined by like these crazy power plays you can do. It's not necessarily efficient, but it's powerful. So like Blow Up has Rancid Visitations, which is like the best horde clear spell in the game, but it's super short range, and he's got an Umbral Spell Portal here, so you can summon an Umbral Spore Petal and Rancid Visitations through it to just like it does mortals on a 2-up per model within 7 inches of it. So you can like instantaneously delete a horde like nothing. And there's also Jaws right here. So like because like Glockkin has 2 casts, Poxbringer is a cast, and Blow Up is a cast, and he's going second. The Poxbringer can have 2 casts, so he actually has 5 casts. So you can really do some like pretty powerful stuff while you're walking around nurgling. I like that.
Also, he has Fleshly Abundance, so he can make a 20 block of Plague Bearers into like from 40 wounds to 60 wounds. So it's combine that with Counter Charge.
This is a lot more of this kind of stock standard meta Nurgle list you're seeing. So he's got the little Glutkin combo where, he's got that extra tree. He's going to turn 1, summon a Sloppity. He's going to countercharge with those 20 Plague Bearers. Depending on position, he might get 1 or 2 in, and then he's going to have the rest 2.99 inches out from pretty much your entire enemy's front line. You can't pile in. You can't really do anything against them. It's just going to lock you in place. And he's got those jaws and got everyone else to try and move up and do damage, hold the board.
Yeah, and like so that's like there's layers to this thing because it has like this crazy punching power from these the 3 big characters and these spells.
Nurgle Onion.
But then it can just completely lock you down as an alternate game plan depending on what he needs in the moment.
He also has Befalling Host, so he actually has like a good amount of summoning too.
Yeah, so you can grind out a long game with that. I think this list is just strong. It's just strong. Yeah. I believe he got like 2nd or 3rd in RTT, and then like another one he got like 4th with this, and he's been doing pretty well with this. I also, with the very similar list at the teams tournament, went 5-0. Like it wasn't exactly this list, but it was very similar. So probably gonna do pretty darn well with that list.
Oh, yeah, a little off topic, but it's good seeing you, Coach. Hopefully you can hang out with us next week at LVL.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a fun time. It's gonna be super cool.
So sad.
Chat.
I won't be there. I'm so sad.
Maybe you should just make a clone of yourself so you can be there.
Probably.
Okay, so I think that's all of Chaos here, right?
No, I think you're missing. Did you? I don't think you did Trish yet.
Oh yeah, we got you.
You also didn't. You also didn't do Shane's
Shane
list.
Trish.
He's playing Skaven.
Yes.
Shane Trish. So there's actually
not
2.
Game is not real chaos. Don't lie.
Yeah, little rats.
You know, I'm realizing it looks like chaos lists are actually making like a majority of like this event.
Yeah, there's a lot of chaos here. It's like at least 10. I think more than 10. But
yeah, actually, yeah, chaos is definitely the biggest grand alliance of this event, and because I'm having the best in faction events, it's probably going to be a really tough competition to see who gets it.
Yeah. So this Skaven list is importantly not the big Skaven list that's been going around, which is with all the bells and stuff like that. But it does have some of the same types of units in it. So it's got 2 Grey Seers and a Warbringer. Doing Grey Seer stuff. Scabic Plague Seeker, who that model is just crazy. That unit's insane. They can turn off objectives for opponents, and so they can only be contested by Scabic and his little plague pack. And you just put a bunch of stuff in front of them, and you're like, "This objective is mine," and you can't do anything about it.
It is definitely the strongest warband that's come out like in recent memory.
It's too cheap, honestly. It needs to be like 160, in my opinion. But like, its ability's awesome. There's counterplay. It's just way too efficient. For what it does, because like a priest is already 100 points, and you get a priest plus a unit with really good ability, like it's a little good. But it's really cool tech, and this list is it's got 60 clan rats that are just running around being annoying. So
and
to that,
it's actually not easy to lift clan rats either. Like no, you think that 20 wounds on a 5-up is like easy. No, it's not. And because he has ways to, I think, ensure battle shock immunity, they just come back D3 at the end of every battle shock phase.
Each battle shock phase, yeah.
Yeah, so if you don't actually commit to removing them, they'll just come back. And also, usually, the Hell Pit Abomination is sitting behind one of the blocks of 20 clan rats. So if you charge that block, the Hell Pit, for 180 points, hits pretty hard for what it does.
It hits like a truck. It is a slammer. Like, it kills hordes like nothing, and it's also got those high-end attacks. It does die very easily, but then, like, you never know if it's actually going to die, because it might just stand back up. That could really mess with your plans a lot. It does have random movement and other annoying things, for sure, about it, but at 180 points, it's a steal right now. Like, nothing punches.
Yeah, another thing I also want to shout out is the Plague Priest on Plague Furnace. That thing is probably one of the hardest things to kill in the game, because I know it's -1 wound, but it also might be -1 a hit, where...
Yeah, so the rules for Skaven let it get the Lookout Sir in melee. So if it's next to another unit, it's -1 to hit, and it's innately -1 to wound, and it has a ward save, and it's got like 14 wounds or something like that.
14 wounds, yeah. So on a 4-up.
And so it's like -1 to hit, -1 to wound, with a ward save, and a lot of wounds. It becomes just like a nightmare to deal with, and it just does mortals to you all game, and like praise, and it's the one that gives the battle shock community around it as well for these.
And can they pass off wounds to clan rats or no? Or is that only the Grey Seer on Bell?
Can, but I think it's only the Grey Seers and the Vermlord Warbringer, because they have the key.
I think if you scroll down to the rest of the list, because I don't think the stream can see it. The list also has Gravetide, and then it's a Battle Regiment, Warlord, and Endorian Acolytes. So Skaven like to take it. So even though some people or like some armies like to really play around low drops, a lot of armies like Skaven actually like to play around high drops because they want to maximize the most of the enhancements and everything.
Yeah, and they have so many different things they can do that, like, even taking a first turn and not really accomplishing much, they can actually punish you for things. They can set up a lot of cool stuff, so like they aren't that worried about who goes first. They're also good at reacting. They're very flexible, so it like suits them.
And it's everything in that list can trade, especially with Endorian Acolytes. Blizzard, is always a threat, and then if they ever get Death Frenzy off, it just becomes like a nightmare to deal with, like Censer Bearers or any Skaven unit.
Censer Bearers punch above their belt, like above their weight, so hard. And if you've never fought against the Smash Rat, this guy right here, the Vermilord Warbringer with the Warpstone Charm for -1 to save around him, +2 attacks on each of his weapons, flaming weapon. He comes in, he just like it deletes almost anything in the game.
I believe the command trait Diva's adversary also lets him like fight first or retreat once per game, right?
No, that's a Eshin one. No, that's the sneaky one. This guy just does pure damage. Like he just hits crazy hard. He dies fairly easily compared to some other things at that point cost. But
I think he's still got a 5-up board though, doesn't he?
Yeah, but
yes, they all have a 5-up board.
But he's got like a 4-up save with a 5-up board. Like it's fairly easy to take him down for 380 points. But Skaven have so many units running around, so many tricks. Like he'll get him where he needs it to be, and just delete something, and you will not enjoy the experience.
Yeah, I think if you're not experienced in fighting Skaven, it like catches anyone off guard.
Yeah. Also of note, I believe Shane is #1 ITC Skaven at the moment. So he's like this list is serious. It's
super serial.
A super serial, guys. Like you don't even understand. I think the Skaven can be hella dicey sometimes, so it's hard to like 5-0 with them because you're just gonna have that game where the dice just drop on you and you just lose. But this list is powerful. I do think he's gonna do well, and if he gets lucky, he could 5-0 with it. Just needs a little bit of not miscasting at the wrong time, and the house of cards fall on your head and stuff like that. It's a cool list. I like this list. It's more interesting than the Bells one. The Bells one looks cool on paper, but in gameplay is much less interesting.
I think he took something like this to Old Town Throwdown teams, and he actually did very well with it. Like he's gotten a couple of 4-1s with Skaven.
Yeah,
this year, so
quite well with things similar to this list. I don't remember if it's exactly the same. I don't think he's 5-0'd or anything like that, but he has gotten some very good placements.
He 5-0'd with Zinch earlier this year at Loonshine.
Yeah, but
GT.
I'm talking about the Skaven though, specifically.
But yeah, not Skaven. Yeah.
I think he went 4-1 at teams, and he's got another 4-1, I think, and some close 3-2s and stuff like that, and RGT good stuff. Yeah,
He's also got the spoon at don't forget his SoCal Open spoon.
Yeah. Oh man, SoCal Open was a blast. That was a fun event. So for our last Chaos player, we have Trish, a fellow War Glamour teammate over here. Trish only plays Slaanesh, has been playing Slaanesh forever, and she's been really working on this specific list and trying to master it over the past like 6 months or so. And she's been really like her skill curve has been going up like real quickly. Once she like settled on the list that she liked. So I've been seeing some good stuff from her with this one. It's playing Godseekers, which is basically like movement. You get to move at the beginning of battle rounds before turns happen. So it helps you be where you need to be. So stuff like Gludos, who's normally fairly immobile, you can like put him in the right spot if he's out of position, stuff like that. And you create this like really interesting thing where Gludos is -1 to hit aura and super tanky and heals. The Twin Souls give you a -1 attack. And like and the Lord of Pain is like making things fight really strong. So there's like this weirdly tanky core. And there's all these units that can just basically go around the board and do damage where they want to. So like Seekers, Fiends, take out like multi-wound models, Blissbarb Seekers, like bringing down your saves, and then the Fiend Bloods, which can just do a huge amount of damage if things go right because it could fight twice and hit hard. It's like one of those like cool toolbox lists that are just an absolute joy to play as, where you're always like, how do I solve this problem? And you have to try and like arrange your army. Like nothing in this list is like individually super powerful except for maybe Gludos. But it's sort of like one of those things where it's just a flexible, reactive list that can deal with a lot of stuff if you play it well. So I think it's a pretty damn cool list. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's a good grind list, and also the nice thing I like about the Lord of Pain is that it gives all Slaanesh units that are like mortal keyworded, including the Fiend Bloods, +1 to a hidden wound, or is it just +1 a wound? But essentially because they have Speed Chasers, so it just impact hits on 4-ups like Ogres. And the Girdle of Realm Racer also gives that hero a 6-inch pile in. So it allows the Lord of Pain to get into targets where they want to protect, or if something charges the army, the Lord of Pain can just swing out of the activation with it's just a 6-inch pile in, without the opponent being able to do anything. So
yeah. There's like a lot of little things. It'd be very hard to describe all the little things you can do with this list. But if you're the sort of player who really likes to like have a bunch of moving pieces that all synergize really well, it's that sort of list. It's super cool. Like there's so many little tricks and plays going on. It's a really cool list.
This is the kind of list where you even to a new player, or maybe someone who's not really experienced with Slanesh, and they're going to own 5. They're going to have no idea what this list. They're not going to publish anything. Trish, like you said earlier, she's been practicing the same list, same tactics for a couple months at this point, so she's kind of got it down. Looking forward to seeing how she does.
Yeah, I'm curious how to see because, I'm hoping for good things. We'll see. Definitely, the skill has been going up big time, and I think she's ready for at least a 4.
Yeah, she's put in the work. I've been seeing that she's doing a lot of TTS, and one more shout out for her. She's actually made 2 of the many prizes that I'm going to be presenting at the event.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so can't wait to show off what she's made for us. So there we go.
All right, so that pretty much comes to the conclusion of Chaos, which was the biggest. There's a lot of Chaos players. That was by far most popular thing.
Yeah, it is the biggest Grand Alliance at this event.
Yeah, for sure, by a lot. Do you guys want to do Death, Order, or Destruction?
Let's do Death.
Death. All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Where's the Death Army? There's an Did I skip one? No, I don't think so, right? Okay. The first Death Army is Josh Lowry, the slowest man on Earth. Playing Ossiarch Bone Reaper. He used to play.
Can't disrespect my boy like that.
He's sped up a lot now, but he used to have a Yahtzee shaker, and he'd shake his head, go it was hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, we had to tell him to not to unlearn that really quickly.
He was in the death mentality. The longer the game goes, the better I am at winning. So he's playing Mortis Praetorians. That's interesting. I don't play OBR, so one of you guys should talk about this list.
Yeah, so I'll start off. So essentially, it's Mortis Praetorians, and also Kyle's in the chat too if you wanted to chime in. Mortis Praetorians allows, after an enemy unit has charged, they can charge during the enemy's charge phase. So there's a lot of tech that this list has. Although I'm not familiar with, I'm very terrible at pronouncing these. Mir Kanan?
Mir Kanan, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like I'll let Kyle talk about the rest of this list and see what his thoughts are.
So Mir Kanan is kind of hilarious because with 6 inches. So his spell. Let me go over his spell real quick. Dire Ultimatum is a casting value 4, range of 3. Successfully cast, pick one enemy unit within range of invisible to caster. So your next hero phase, if that unit is within 3 of that enemy unit, when that enemy unit is picked to fight, all attacks made with melee weapons must target this unit. This range must be measured from the caster, even if the ability allows you to measure from elsewhere. So what Arkin does is add 6 inches to that, so you can cast this within 9 inches instead of 3. So it triples the distance. So you target something, and that thing can only fight you if it is within 3 inches. Let's see, 3 of that enemy unit when its enemy is picked to fight. Yeah, so you can basically force something that you're really scared of to have to hit your Kanan. Which is the fun thing, especially if you cast Protection to Gash on him, so that when Protection pops, he just gets out.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. That's really cool tech. I like that.
He's just like a,
he's pretty fighty. Right?
Yeah, he's got 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, Ren 2, damage 2, which essentially means Ren 3, damage 2, because we're playing OPR.
Yeah. That's good. That's pretty hard hitting.
The boys he comes with, they're decent. Let's see,
they exist.
They exist. The only bow in all of OBR, isn't that in that group?
Yes.
Yeah. Little guy with a little bone bow,
Yeah. So let's see, how many units is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
For anyone kind of familiar with
9. 9.
So he's never going to run out of CP unless, a
Plus
lot of stuff starts
he has
dying.
Xantos as well. Like, he's not running out of CP.
Yeah.
Xantos for the +1 to wound aura, which is fantastic.
Does Xantos have that command that gives the +1 attack?
He does not have endless, what do you call it? Endless duty. But instead he has Still the Breath, which gives +1 to wound for all Mortis Praetorians wholly within 12 of him. So, I mean, that's, in a lot of cases, that's kind of better.
Yeah, because it's everyone instead of one unit.
Yeah, so you can play, wide without having to rely on the key for the not the key, sorry, the cartouche for the +1 to wound.
Yeah.
You've got this is a very fighty OB army that can spread out a lot more than normal. He doesn't have one solid large block. Well, he's got one block of 4 Archive.
Yeah, he still has 1 4 block of Morghast, which, if given enough support, it can destroy the world.
And so they don't really need that much support in this. So you have Arcan, which means you have the spells. There's 5 5 spells you get to cast here. The cool thing about this, the way that I would kind of play it, is that you just run Xantos and the Morghast up the side of the board. You don't have Catacross, so auras don't matter. And then you just tie up everything else.
Auras don't matter with Catacross.
It matters.
It's 24 inches, isn't it?
24 inches is big, but you can't play on the other side of the board. You know what I mean?
Not bad, dude.
There's a fundamental difference between not having to worry about any auras. Yeah. So, Xantos can stand in the middle, and then, like you said, 24 is huge, and it's 12 on either side. So
I'm surprised he doesn't have Gothazar Cartouche in the list for +1 wound.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, because I guess it's more independent.
Well, because Xantos does that, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So you don't need it. And then Mirror Cannon, you can kind of it's kind of like how I was using, what do you call it? The Sons of Elmorn. Just you have a countercharge unit that you don't actually care about losing. So either him or his buddies, you just kind of send them at something, and they will, stop something from charging without you losing something that really matters. Or if you want to, you can always charge one of the other OPR units, which they will always do something when they get there.
Yeah.
It's not quite like
the Mir Kanan and kind of the number of separate units going on in this list definitely give him the ability to just allow his archive to just chop. It makes them very hard for you to actually get to them and stop them with anything meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cool.
So
when you're explaining it, that makes a lot of sense.
So if you play the cool thing about playing Legion of Night, right, is that you cannot engage Legion of Night without something countercharging you. Now, if you play Mortis Praetorians you're pretending to play Legion of Night, which is super wide in a list like this, and there's just so many different things that get to trigger a countercharge. The whatever is it, 3 dudes from Mir Canaans? I forgot how many people come with him. 5. Okay, so that, you countercharge, you can reroll it. They just tag, that's 5 dudes who can tag up a whole bunch of the enemy's army, and the enemy doesn't want to charge those, right? They don't do anything. Yeah. So it's just really good taking advantage of Mortis Praetorian rules.
Yeah, and you can park up and cast the spell with Mir Kanan, and they're I want to fight the Archive, but I can't because I have to fight this little dude with an axe. Yeah, that's cool tech. That's really interesting. I love the way that this is constructed, actually, now that I'm seeing how this is built. It's an interesting list. It's definitely
very weird.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff going on, and if you don't know what OPR does, which, I think at this point, Josh is understanding how this army works and what it does. And then the opponent, though, will just go, oh, what do I kill here? You kill the Morghast, that is the idea, but can you get to the Morghast?
Can you actually do that? Is the question. Is that with all these?
I will say his command trait choice is interesting because of how Horrorfrost you can't use Dark Acolyte with Horrorfrost for that combo. Correct. But I'm guessing he has other spells.
It's just a turn 1. If you need magical dominance, So the really cool thing about Dark Acolyte in a list like this is, say you want to be in range to dispel your opponent, but you also want to make sure that you can cast your spell. So what you can do is not put Arcane within 30 inches of the opponent, and then if your opponent has drop priority, so be like, okay, well, if you give me first turn, I will guarantee my my battle tactic. But if you take first turn, I can still deny your battle tactic.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. That's like the Dark Acolyte has been a thorn in my side for sure in the past for that reason. This is a cool list. It's well constructed, and I don't know how he's going to do with it. It's complicated, but it's impossible to predict that list. But I think it's a strong list at the very least.
Yeah.
And
so
worth looking
it is another list that's.
Certainly did.
All right.
What would be the penalty for changing my list?
You have to paint another model for me for free.
No, we'll talk about this later.
The special, everybody's favorite. Here we go.
Yeah,
all right.
We got the zombie spam.
Boo! Boo! This
Nick Gonzalez, I hope you're in this chat because we're about to trash your list. We love you, Nick. We love you. We love your team. We love your brother, but. Oh man, this list is we're gonna have fun. We're gonna have fun reviewing this, Nick. All right.
So, 40 Deadwalker, 40 Deadwalker, 40 Deadwalker, 20 Deadwalker. That's already like, stop. Don't do this to me. Go away. Like, I don't like you. You're not my real dad.
You don't have any real friends.
I'm like traumatized from the original. Like, this list went up like 500 points, and it's still very good.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, I'm glad that it's still kind of playable. It's very playable, but it's Jesus. I'll let someone else talk about it.
Only 210 wounds, guys.
Yeah, like what's the worst that could happen?
Kyle is also a resident Soulbite player, so I think let's let Kyle go into this before we also talk about the other synergies this list has. So Kyle, yeah.
I will say that I am happy that an army that just exists in the game, so that those people who like to play Smash armies, if you're playing orcs, if you're playing anything else that likes to attack move across the board, you get to kill a lot of models. So you'll feel really good when you pair into this. You might lose, but it's okay because you killed stuff, right?
You killed like 200 guys. And you're like, I'm winning. It's like, no, you lost, but you got to kill 200 dudes. It feels pretty fucking good.
Okay, so what is happening here? Gorslov, in Virkos, you can give command traits and artifacts to the unique heroes. If they have the Virkos keyword, of which half of the heroes in Soulblight have the Virkos keyword. So the command trait, Spore Trackers. I believe this is the move in the hero phase.
Yeah, it's the move one. I forgot how far there was, like D6 inches or something like that.
Let's pull it up real quick. It's been a minute since I've.
Core idea of it. I know it's the movement one, so the point is it gets your zombies into a better position because they are slow.
Mm-hmm. They are slow, and getting that is certainly nice. You also have the heroic action, I think, where you can just return Deadwalkers, of which this whole list is Deadwalkers.
Yeah.
The command, so the artifact, which is really the important thing here, is the 5 of board. He has 2 sources of it. Gorslav has one, and Torgilius has the other. The spells don't really matter so much. I mean, Waste Away is phenomenal. That spell, I believe, is the...
It's the -1 damage spell, and -1 hit.
You don't really want to get hit by that if you're a damage 2 army, because then you just, essentially killing those zombies, they have double the wounds now, of which they had them already, right?
I think the Hoarfrost is worth mentioning on how it works with zombies.
Yeah, right. So zombies have, let's see, I think 2 attacks per model.
Yeah.
If there's a Vampire Lord nearby. pull up the zombie.
Yeah, they get an extra attack if they're wholly within range of Vampire
Right, so
Lord.
it goes to 3. They have 5 attacks. Sorry, 3 attacks, 5s and 4s, no rend, 1 damage. But if you Hoarfrost them to hit on 2s,
Goes from 5
suddenly
up to a 2 up. It's just
a 2 up.
disgusting.
It's much, much scarier. Or if you just give them rend. But they already do mortals on the, let's see.
On hits, right? 6s to hit? Or no, it's to wound rolls. So you're just like, you're basically tripling the number of hits they're getting when you do that.
Right.
Which triples
And they're on
the mortal
25,
wound
so
output.
there's a lot of damage.
Yeah, it gets really gross. Like, it just circumvents like their biggest weakness, which is hitting on 5s. And I've been on the receiving end of that, and it does not feel good. It touches you in the places you don't want it to.
Yep.
Just the fact zombies have any rules. This should be a blank war scroll.
They really
I agree.
should. Like, literally,
And
they
it's
should be
got
like...
a blank war scroll with a Sunbolt keyword. That's
it
all
should
it
be
needs
blank,
to be.
except for they have a rule like, cannot run.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that they made like zombies, which is like arguably a chaff unit, like 150 points each like unit, but it's because of like the synergies it has in this army. Not to mention that, for example, it is Gorslav that just brings back a unit of zombies for free, or he essentially summons another unit of zombies, which is like oppressive in an army like this, where
Or like
it's
summons isn't returning them if they've died. Right.
yeah, but he does it for free, right? It does. You just have to. You don't have to roll the 4-up. It just happens. Like, that's why you take Gorslav in this list. Outside of giving your army, or there's 2 heroes that give both of all the zombies a 5-up ward.
All right.
So in case anyone wasn't aware, for the Cursed City box, they legended all the Order heroes. And all the other units are half strength or, not really eligible in Sigmar. But they've kept these heroes. It's just why.
Actually, you could buy the First City vampires separately. All that side. So.
Yeah,
Zombies
but
are
they're
cool, dude.
Zombies are cool.
That's why.
But,
if you haven't played against zombies before, like the corpse cards are also just absolute fill for 90 points.
Yeah. The strength of this list is that it can also get 5 reliable battle tactics, and it's really hard to deny the grand strat. Like, you essentially have to be a list where you can. It's also, if you played MMOs, this is essentially a DPS checklist. If you cannot meet the DPS check to like remove this list and have the survivability to be able to deal with this, like this list will just run over most people that aren't prepared to deal with it.
I will say that those people that have that artifact that says models count, models 1 or 2 wounds don't count. This list kind of struggles against anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, anything that has shooting, anything that kills the corpse carts, also will make this list struggle. But like the biggest thing about Soul Blight in general is that like it doesn't matter what your opponent does. It's just can they score primary, and if they can't score primary, then the Soul Blight player wins.
Yeah, because you're just putting bodies in the way. You're just like, I'm scoring 5 points every turn, and I'm gonna try and stop you from scoring 5 points.
Funny enough, there's one army that I saw recently play against Nick's zombies that actually kept up with it and won the game. It was a player named Eric Hall. He was actually running Gits with a lot of trolls, and essentially, he would just keep buffing the trolls. And because the trolls have a lot of healing, the zombie mortals actually didn't like affect them as much, and they were able to just like chunk through all the zombies, which actually shocked me, considering trolls don't have like the most amount of attacks, but they do a lot of damage.
They do a lot of damage, and they have a lot of sustain.
Yeah,
So,
it's the healing, right? It's like you can fight for like 3 turns straight and not have been moved by the mortal wound damage.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I probably Gits is one of the few armies that can actually keep up with this kind of Soul Blight list.
We talked trash about it. I actually don't think like this list is necessarily busted anymore because it went up so many points, but it's still very good. Like, it has weaknesses now, whereas before it did not have weaknesses. Before it was essentially unbeatable. Now it's like, it's a good list. It's very strong, but there's definitely like, it's gonna be a close game. Like you're not gonna like 20-0 someone or get 20-0'd by it. Using differential scoring or whatever. It's just, but it's going to result in a lot of like you're killing a lot of stuff and you're probably dying as you do it. And can you do it fast enough? Maybe not. But if you're a sustained damage army, it's definitely beatable. But it's high A tier type army, I think, right now.
Yep. And essentially, you look at how many wounds there are, and then add half of that on top of it.
Yeah.
That's
I guess the biggest weakness this list has is that if your opponent decides to clock you, that the opponent has to play very quickly.
Too strong.
You see, if I was playing this list, I would never move. Sorry, I would never take and do anything in the combat phase. Just pass the turn, right? Like, don't even bother attacking unless you have the buffs.
That's actually like the most efficient way to play this army. Like, there's zero reason to play aggressively unless, like, maybe for like a tactic you need to get a soul blight, you didn't get killed. Easy tactic.
It reminds me of when Gargants were super powerful. It's like beginning of 3rd edition, where it's like you pretty much just stand there and it's like, can you kill me fast enough? The best thing they can do is just not play. But unlike Gargants, it's very satisfying, like you mentioned, to just slaughter zombies. So no matter what, you're actually in reality, you're probably gonna lose, but you're gonna have a good time doing it.
That's how I feel about it. Like it does achieve the dread, the existential dread of a zombie apocalypse, right? Like, you're sitting there going, "Oh my god."
Inevitably dragged down into the dirt,
and it's awesome. I'm glad that exists. It's really cool.
I like that it exists in the meta in general. That's all the death. There's only 2 death players.
There's a third.
I missed him. Ian Black. Ossiarch Bone Reapers. I was like, I thought I missed an Ossiarch. There it is. Yeah. This is Null Myriad, so ignoring spells, Arcan, Catacrys, Bone Shaper, 30 Mortek Guard, 2 units of 5 Death Riders, and then Gothstar Harvester with Suffocating Gravetide. This is a brick. This is a can you deal with this army? The 30 Mortek are like invincible when you have the Gothstar Harvester and Catacrys buffing them, and like Mystic Shield, and the returning models every turn. And it's a straight up melee castle. Pretty straightforward, but very, very strong. What do you guys think about this list?
This man is going to straight up hold 1.5 objectives all game.
Yeah. Yeah. On like a 3 objective mission, how do you beat this? Like, that's tough.
Yeah, I think so. With the pack that I have, definitely its strongest mission is Geomantic Pulse.
Yeah.
Let me see what else I'm the TO of the event, and even I don't remember all the missions I picked in the pack. Come on, give me a second. So
Wizard Tower. It's not too late to put it in.
Online.
Actually, no. There's actually another good battle plan that this has for Spring the Trap, which is 3 objectives. So that's also really strong there. Yeah, I mean, what this list is good at is just being able to sit in the middle and just tank everything. I am curious as to why he had Lotus Saturation on the Mortician Bone Shaper. Like, that's a really interesting choice, considering I don't think his Grand Strat Spellcasting Savant, is it? I'm pulling it up.
Doesn't have a Grand Strat listed.
Oh.
Maybe I'm supposed to forget.
Probably is.
Probably is. It almost always is. So, and I know he's played with it before.
Yeah.
I mean, Low Saturation kind of makes sense. Like, if you, in some ways, he's just leaning into what he's already doing. In the same sense, the Suffocating Gravetide is leaning into his core game plan, which is like, I'm going to hold 1.5 objectives, like Abbott said. And Gravetide gets rid of their many-bodied units, so you can't take them back from him. And Low Saturation leans into his Never Die.
Yeah, you don't really need the key if you have a Harvester. So that's kind of the thought there. And I mean, you already have Arcan and Catacrys, so you're already healing 9 Mortek Guard. You don't need 12, as much as I like 12.
Yeah. This list is very straightforward, but I think it's good.
I'm surprised it didn't take more Frost, though. That was
that is surprising, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this list is strength that it just has a lot of resilience, and if it just wants to sit somewhere, like, it's going to be really hard to, like, kill. The only weakness that this list does have is that, like, it cannot spread out enough for battle tactics. And let's say on the other missions that I have at this GT, where you have to spread out, like, limited resources, Fountains of Frost and other missions like that, it might struggle on missions like that, where if it leaves its castle, then you can pick it apart.
Yeah. It's like when you put on 6 objectives, it becomes very challenging to play a list like this. It can still win, obviously, but like that's when it gets hard.
I think you guys kind of misinterpreted my 1.5 objectives. I don't mean that as in he's got these 1.5 objectives. Mike, he's got 1.5 objectives. He's got to deal with the whole rest of the board. How's he going to get there?
Yeah,
that was kind of my thought.
That's where the Death Riders come in, and also Arkin is fast enough to be independent, but you have to be careful of how you extend Arkin or move him around the board, because if you lose him, it hurts the list a lot. Although he does have Dark Acolyte, so they can never unbind reinforced constructs. So then the Mortek Guard are going to have a 4-up ward against mortal wounds, so it's really tough to remove, or even tougher to remove.
Yeah. So it's just a survivable list. All right, so that's the end of Death. We have Order and Destruction left. Which one do you guys want to do? Let's have Noosh pick one. Destruction or Order?
Let's do Destruction. Destruction's always fun.
All right, hell yeah. I'm excited about this one. Carlos Luna's Iron Sons. Now, I don't know Carlos. You're talking about him earlier. He's from Ventura area.
No, that's a different. Oh yeah. Apparently, Purple Goatman is saying that like your volume is low.
Oh, my volume's low?
Yeah, he's saying that everyone else is super loud and you're super quiet.
Okay, let me check on that.
Yeah, because I think it's hard to like be able to like see on disc or hear on Discord since we're in this Discord channel. But
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, see if you can fix that.
There. How does this sound for me? Like I just adjusted a little bit. I didn't adjust it super strongly, but I did adjust it. Okay, cool. Yeah, didn't want to like blow out everyone's eardrums, but there we go. Okay, so this guy's playing Iron Sons, which I used to hate Iron Sons. I thought they were just bad, but they've gotten a lot of more units that support them now. So I'm curious how this guy did it. But his list is like definitely not what I was expecting here. It's interesting. He's got 2 mega bosses on Maw Crushes. So he's already coming in with the double crush action, just to punch people in the dick big time. 2 War Chandas, of course, and 2 Weird Knob Shamans. He's got Teleport and Bash Him Lad. So he's got some various buffs. Aim a little Destiny. Like this is like fighty. Like this is all about killing. He's got Destroyer Mina on this Maw Crusher right here, who's not the general. Importantly, so this is like his big fighty one. He's just going and just killing anything it touches, basically. And then he's got 3 units of Brutes, which are great into zombies and stuff like that. A unit of Gore-Gruntas and Morgoth's Crushes, which are basically 3 Brutes. So this list is like, it doesn't screen, it doesn't do tricks. It does do tricks, but it kills everything it touches, basically. But what's really interesting about it is Iron Sons lets him charge during the opponent's charge phases. Basically he can have these like Maw Crushes and Brutants and stuff like that, and you can't really engage one unit without engaging like his entire army. Like he can pile in, like he can charge with like 3 units during your turn. So you're like, oh, I'm gonna take out this 5-man brute unit. It's like, well, actually, you're fighting 2 Maw Crushes and 2 units of brutes now. So good luck with that. And really just amps up the velocity on an army like this big time. So I think it's like these games probably will not take very long to resolve.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna be dead like very quickly.
I've not seen 2 Maw Crushes since like the early days of 3.0. It felt like a couple months ago, but it's actually
what I was gonna say about this
2 years ago.
Literally reads like a very early straight drop of the Iron Jaws book.
Yeah, it's pure. Like it is no frills. It reminds me of 2.0 list for sure. Like with the double crush, because I haven't seen that either in a long time. But it's scary.
Also, none of the no new Ragers in the list, isn't it?
Yeah, I was expecting Ragers. I was expecting the big pigs, maybe, although they're kind of overpriced, but they're good in Iron Suns.
No one's expecting big pigs.
I think it's hard to fit the Ragers in because of like now our Iron Jaws don't have any cheap battle line options anymore, so he has to take the 3 or 4 units of brutes just to satisfy that end. Although he does have a unit of Gore Gruntas. And just to speak about the player Carlos himself, he's actually, when I first got into Age of Sigmar back in 2018, he's actually from my local GW community I used to go to in Westminster in California. So I actually learned AOS 2.0 a lot with him and a little bit of 3.0. So I've actually like started to convince him lately to like start coming to our events because he played the game but he hasn't been to like our RTTs and things like that. So it's really nice that like Carlos is coming out to his first GT and really awesome guy, and I hope that like a lot of you get to meet him and have good games against him.
I also wanted to say, the biggest thing about countercharge with brutes is the your opponent forgetting you messin exists every single time.
Yeah. Like, let's say he's fighting, like, if Nick fights this guy, he's like, oops, looks like the zombies don't count.
Right, like,
Did I do that?
It's happened to me so many times where it's just like, oh, right, crap, you messing. I guess I score nothing this game.
Iron Jaws is one of those armies where, like, on the face, it's like a smash army, but there's so many tricks you can do, and, like, predicting all the things they could do is, like, damn near impossible. They're never where you think they're going to be, and they're, like, all over the place, getting in things you don't want them to get into.
There's also, like, an insane trick you can do with the Iron Jaws where, with Mighty Destroyers, you can charge, and then retreat in the movement phase, and then still be able to pile in, because you charged in the hero phase. Like, there's a lot of, like, wacky shenanigans where I think... So Iron Jaws is, like, one of the lowest win rate armies, but I think the army is way better than, like, people give it credit for. Although it is a very popular army, because it is very fun to play, it's straightforward, you can get drunk with it, smash, and have a good time, and also, I would never sleep on, like, Iron Jaws, like, armies, because if you make a single mistake and the player knows how to capitalize on it, it can actually just, like, table an opponent.
Yeah.
Really quickly.
Yeah, they're really good at exploiting weaknesses. Like, if you misposition just a little bit, they can just end your whole career on the spot. It's awesome. I love this list. It's a fun one. I think he's gonna have a blast with it. I have no idea if it's good or not, to be honest. Like, I haven't seen Double Mark Rush in forever. I haven't seen a list structured like this in a very long time. I played a lot of Iron Jaws for a long time, but
yeah, it's actually a crazy throwback. Like, actually, it's actually giving me nostalgia seeing a list like this.
Yeah, and it's at the very least it's a great drinking list. Like, you're just like having drinks with your friends and playing. Like, it might be good. It's hard to read exactly how powerful it is, but it's fun. Next we move on to Eugene. And I know this list, but who wants to talk about this one?
I can talk about this one. I've played against this list a lot, and Eugene likes to clown on me a lot because he beat me at Everwinter, making it my only loss there. So I gotta talk about the list that beat me. So yeah. So to start off, this is an army of Gits, goblins, squigs, spiders, trolls, and all that, and he's gone to the sub-faction of King's Gits. So essentially, with how the mechanic works, the Loon Shrine, their terrain piece, can bring back dead units on a 4-up at the end of their player turns. So you have, usually, if you don't have a sub-action, you can only roll it once on a 4-up, so you bring back a unit at half strength. King's Git lets you re-roll it. So you have a 4-up re-rolling, bringing back a unit. So it's actually, like, pretty reliable. And then in addition, when you have Clammy Hand, then you have a chance of 2 units coming back, which makes the survivability of this army insane.
And you're re-rolling both of them. Yeah, you can roll for 2 different units and re-roll both of them. It's nasty.
Yeah, pretty much. And then also what the list has is that, like, it's very different from other. The only thing that makes this list kind of similar to other Gits lists is because it has a unit of 36 Squig Herd, so that's about 72 wounds. But the rest of it is pretty unique because, especially with I want to shout out the 60 Shootas. So Shootas are, 4s and 5s, no rend, 1 damage each, but they can get extra rend thanks to the Gobapalooza, and if the Fellwater Trogoths sit on somebody for another -1 to save. So they can be rend 1, rend 2. it's actually 60 wounds of 120 shots just shooting you. So it's actually like huge amount of shots, and also not to mention 60 wounds is actually really hard to lift. Like a lot of things just don't do 60 damage in like one combat phase in the game. So and because it has a unit leader, so even if you do a lot of damage to it, all it needs is just one Inspiring Presence or Indomitable to stay alive, and then it can just rally on a forum. Also, not to mention, this list has Sneaky Snufflers, so he can give the 5-up ward to 60 wounds of Shooters or the 72 wounds of Squigs, making this list really hard to deal with.
Makes him super
it's like,
kill.
Yeah, and also this list, like, it's very techy Gits list, because it doesn't necessarily plan to, like, it doesn't play to table the opponent, it plays to control the board and score as much battle taxes as possible, while being, like, especially hard to kill. And then every unit is like a trading piece or like a little hammer, especially like the 2 5-man units of Bounders, because even 5 Bounders can kill like a hammer that is like 3 or 4 times more expensive than it, or at least reduce it in like...
Yeah, and if they die, you don't care because your King's Gets, and with Clammy Hands, so you're like bringing them back anyway. So these trading units just get nasty because you just keep sending them out there over and over again and still have a bunch of models left afterwards. It's a pretty techie list. I agree. I like it.
And actually, another unique thing about this is that this list actually doesn't have Scragrot, so it's able to like because it has a lot more points, it can take a lot more stuff. To answer your question, Purple Goat Man, there is a painting requirement for this GT, but it's like 3 colors. If you are, I don't know if you already signed up for the event, but if you are interested and maybe you can't get some stuff painted in time, we can like talk about it and see where else. This exception doesn't go to any of our veterans.
Yeah.
But but for like people that haven't joined our events, I'm always willing to like make an exception for our community. But yeah, to go on about this list more. Yeah, so it's double battle regiment. So because it has a lot of models, it can actually like just dictate the pace of the game. So funny enough, what I've seen him do sometimes is that if he wants to pin an army in, he actually teleports the 60 Shooters, and because they have +1 to charge, all he needs is an 8-inch charge to get in and pin your entire army with 60 wounds of like trash on a 5-up ward, and then you have a Indomitable, and it usually will take 2 or 3 turns to clear out the Shooters. And then in addition, what he has followed up is like the Squig Herd, which if Squig's buffed, will usually delete most anything in this game.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not a straightforward Gits list. It doesn't roll in like 30 Bounders and just smashes you. It plays the long game and just tries to grind you out. Like it doesn't win hard or it doesn't win fast. It just can win consistently.
Yeah.
So this list is actually one of my shout outs to possibly take the event because of this is Eugene's unique list and how much reps he has put in.
He's played a lot too. It does have some weaknesses, but does anyone else have any thoughts on it before I say my things on it? Of you guys.
No, like Matt's saying, Eugene's a good player. He's been playing Gits for a while. Gits are Gits. And the ultimate where you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This list does struggle on the clock, though. That's the one weakness I think it really does have. It's a lot of models that have to be placed multiple places around the board. A lot of dice. It is tricky. I've been pressuring him at events like putting the clock out. I've been holding it to him, but like to help him train up to that speed of play. But like it's hard to play this in a timely manner because there's so many different abilities and moving and so many models. But it's a really strong list, and he's a good player. So
yeah, actually, that's Eugene's actually in the chat. So that's probably the best way to describe it. This is actually like it's a zombie-like list, but it's a destruction take on it.
Yeah, exactly. But unlike zombies, he has to actually do something while he's playing, so it makes the clock actually burns. But he's getting way faster at it. It's just
we love you. We love you, by the way, Nick.
Yeah, I expect good things from this list. It can be a little bit matchup dependent in terms of how good he can lock you down, but like it's a very strong list and it's consistent. There's another Gloomspite Gets player, Greg, who I think is also in the chat. He's playing not the same list at all. I was surprised when I saw this list. It's I love this one. Glog's Mega Mob. It's been a while since I've actually seen someone play Mega Mob. So he's got like the classic, a bunch of little small characters that do various things. Got Skagrot. little spells, little abilities. Moving Mom, it makes people like reduces armor saves, so it's kind of a similar thing we were talking about the other guy, where like reducing saves and really increasing the damage units. The big thing, though, in my opinion, is the 3 units of 6 Trogs, of Rockgut Troggoths. That's a lot of Trog meat coming at you. Like, that's hard to deal with. That's just scary, honestly. It's so much damage. They're so tanky. And, like, normally they're really weak because they're slow, but he has so many units of them that, like, he can take up more space. This looks scary to me.
Yeah, I think, Greg, I know you're in our Discord right now, so if you're around, feel free to, like, chime in about, like, your list, because you know it the best, but essentially, let me pull it up.
Oh, the Sloggeth right here. This guy gives a +1 to hit in this big ol' aura. So all these Trogs, like, yeah, they're just hitting consistently. He's also a Trog, so Trog boss can give them all attack, which gives them a +1 attack. So you're like -1 to save, +1 to hit, +1 attack, high damage output, and then they're healing just constantly. And it's like, it's so hard to deal with them.
Yeah, I can talk about it if you want.
Yeah, I want to hear some of your thoughts on the design of it.
Yeah, so it's not that much different from... There's a lot of other Trog lists that are very similar. You have 3 big blocks of Trogs just to make it really hard for anybody to really deal with it. If you only have 2, you can possibly just have 2 of them die, and then you're out of any hammers. But if you have 3, if your opponent threw their 2 big things into the other 2 units, they still don't most likely die just because they're so survivable, and then they have another unit that's just going to come over to the side and just kill them.
Yeah, like, because if I was fighting this army and I was, like, sending all my damage, and, like, I could probably kill 1 or 2. But then it's like, the third one, like, with what? Like, what am I hitting? Like, I don't have any gas left at that point.
Yeah, what's great about the list is that it's very consistent. Like, you can choose when you want more damage with extra attacks from the Spore Splatters or from all-out attack from the Trog boss. You are hitting on 2s almost every time because you have the Dobby, the Marsh Crawler Sloggoth, that's just around giving +1 to hit for the whole army. And then the rest is ranged magical support from Scragrot and the Endless Spells. The problem with the army is that you are very low on bodies, so it's going to be hard to hold objectives, which is if you have a bunch of models that you're going up against, which is why I have Gravetide in it.
That makes sense.
So
that makes sense.
You can block off huge charge lanes while also just dealing with hordes of bodies without needing to actually throw a Trog unit at it, though any Trog unit that goes into anything that survives, they'll most likely kill it, because 2s and 3s rend 2-3 damage a pop with 2 to 4 attacks in a unit a piece.
Yeah,
is very scary and painful.
Definitely. If you're fighting on objective, you're winning, but it's like getting to the objectives in timely manners is harder.
Not even like you got 6-inch move. Like we play Iron Jaws, man. Like I am the king of knowing how bad a 4-inch move feels.
Yeah,
it's not always 4 because you have Mighty Destroyers.
I honestly forgot they weren't 4. I was thinking in my head they were 4 inches. So that no, 6 is not that bad. 6 is not that bad.
It's not bad. Anything above a 4, I am thinking this is deluxe. This is a fucking Ferrari for me.
One thing that I like is the Scuttletide / Gravetide. They both have huge bases. Like, you can control a lot of space with those 2 together. I like those 2 in that synergy right there. For those who aren't familiar, if you probably are, but maybe you're not, with Endless Spells, their bases, you can move over them, but you can't stop on top of them. So these huge bases can really control where people move unless they get rid of them while doing other cool stuff for you. So having big bases can be a really powerful thing.
Yeah, so besides the actual hitting power of the Trogs, it's the magical support where you actually have Blizzard and Hoarfrost, the ability with Enduring Locust, and then casting those things to try the Endless Spells to try to block off of charge lanes or just be really annoying. If you don't have the unbinds to get rid of them, Scuttletide is an MVP in so many matchups. It's such a thing. It's such a huge pain for your opponent to ever deal with, so you should always bring it. And Gravetide is just stupidly efficient for points and just deals with the problem that I would have in this list. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I'm expecting good things from this list. I think as long as you can get a not bad matchup for like the 6 objective missions, because like you can play them, but like if you fight, like I don't know, let's say you fight me on 6 objectives, it's a pretty rough situation. But like other than that, I think I'm expecting 4-1 or possibly better from this list from you. Honestly, you're one of my picks for top 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a big London GT that happened this weekend, all the way in England, gets Trolls List went 5-0, so the Troll side of the book still has like a lot of legs, despite like the previous nerfs it's gotten.
They're very good, but they're very fair. Like it's definitely not like, oh, they're too good. It's just like they're definitely good. They're consistent. They do what they do, and they do a good job of it.
They also can come back, revive, and like things like that. It's what also makes it like really good.
Yeah, they fight like they grind, they brawl for like 5 turns, and you end up in a paste on the floor eventually if you get got by them. It's a pretty cool list. I like that list. Is there any more Oh, here we go. Yeah, Bone Splitters. Let's go. Ryan,
the actual hero, the goat,
the Chad of the century, bringing up Bone Splitters,
the goated list.
Unless I'm mistaken, I think he's also playing Bone Splitters for LVO, but I hope so. But I think it was him. I love this. I mean, it's like okay, but Boar Boys. So I don't think most people fought against Bone Splitters like ever. But Boar Boys can like do a pregame move and then charge up, and they can hit pretty damn hard. They're not like crazy impactful damage wise, but like there's 2 big units of Boar Boys, and there's also 2 units of Boar Boy Maniacs. So he's got all these like fast units, and he's just like booking it around the table. There's 2 units of Big Stabbas. And there's also Savage Orcs right here. There's I think 20 Savage Orcs, which is 40 wounds. So it's a lot of like kind of high wound count ward save units that are pretty fast and get into annoying positions really well.
They toss a lot of dice at you, so the sub-faction that he's running is Icebone. So 6s to wound do mortal wounds on top of normal damage. So what this list wants to do is the command trait is Great Hunter. So what that does is that so Bone Splitters they can move half of their army with the pregame move 6 inches. Great Hunter makes that 8 inches. So the Boar Boys are going, I believe, 10 or 12 inches already. So you're giving them an 8-inch pregame move. Then they're moving their 10 or 12. And then I believe they could be given run and charge or 36 charge, something like that. It's been a while since I've played against Bone Splitters, and they can just like alpha you. And then if you combine that with Horror Frost, it will actually like. I think that was always the weakness of the Bone Splitters, where they had a lot of like either Rend 1 or just Rend 0 attacks. So, however, with Horror Frost and Glowy Green Tusks, it actually gives the Rend to this army to be able to like outtrade and like just lift things, because even though everything on this army is a 6-up save and they have a 6-up ward, it's still a lot of wounds to deal with, and it's a lot faster.
There's also there's some really cool tech that you could do here. So if you notice, he has Merciless Blizzard. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 6 or 7 casts in this army. So he's got a ton of magic. He does inventory and acolytes, so he's like really good. Like he's getting all these extra dice. He's but the 2 units with Blizzard plus the Wargog Prophet with his Death Stare, he can do really interesting things. Where he's got these like annoying fighting units, but also like they're in these like little death zones. So if you come and get in these brawls with them, he'll like blizzard you up or laser you with the Wargog. So he's creating these like cool bubbles of space where he's actually fighting like. It's really cool to watch a good Bone Splitters player play. But
a little off topic, Elias. Are you able to like make your like I think part of your face cam is blocking like the list?
Oh,
we, like, look at them.
I think I can move it.
Yeah, just so we can show everybody who doesn't like subscribe to BCP the list.
Yeah, I think that. There we go. I moved it. There we go. Just another corner.
All right. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so it's just like a ton of these little units brawling, and if you get stuck fighting them, he can like blizzard you off. If you don't fight them, he's just standing on objectives and zoning you out of things. So it's a pretty cool list. Unfortunately,
when he pops fast stun in the hero phase, I think it still lets him blizzard, or can you not do that anymore?
I think any move or setup you can't do blizzard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But, I mean, also once per game, in the combat phase, he can declare Wa to give his entire army a 4 ward in combat. So if he thinks a lot of big damage is coming in, it just makes his army like pretty resilient.
Yeah, it's their stats are kind of more than a little bit bad, but their things they're doing are pretty cool, and it's good. No matter what, it's gonna be fun because like if this man goes 3-2, he is the king of the world, right? Like, and if he doesn't, it's like whatever. I'm just having a blast with
So the fun fact about the player, he actually. So if you remember at SoCal Open, he actually was the one that ran a bunch of spiders.
Yeah.
Oh, that dude.
Yeah, really good painter, really good like converter, and like he's just a well-rounded like hobbyist. And like after seeing how good his spiders look, I'm really actually looking forward to see how his bone splitters look.
Because the spiders were amazing. They were so cool.
And while everybody thinks Bone Splitters is getting squatted from AOS, I actually hope that they don't get squatted from AOS. I actually hope that they like keep them around as an army, because I have an army of Bone Splitters, and I like hope one day that they get updated rules so they can like play with the rest of the game. But
you just put them back on square bases, bro.
They probably will get squatted, but like it sucks. But it probably will. It sucks that it happens, but like if they do, those probably move to the old world.
Hey, shout out to Ryan. Hopefully you kick ass with this list.
Yeah, I have high hopes. All right, next we have the nicest man on earth, Scott Reed, who's also like the head TO, I think, of LVO. And he makes like all the terrain. He's an absolute hero of the community. Love this guy. He's also the infamous Dragon Slayer. Would
you like to give people a history lesson of his title?
Yeah. So we call him the Dragon Slayer because he's like the nicest person ever. Like you cannot ask for a nicer opponent. And someone showed up when Stormcast Dragons were super powerful, and he beat them. And they
with Cruel Boys when they were at like
with Cruel Boys. When Cruel Boys sucked, he beat them, and that guy like immediately dropped out of the tournament and sold his army on the spot to someone who was standing there.
Yeah, I was the one that he bought it from. So
right.
It was 11 dragons or 12 dragons. MSRP, it was like more than $1,000, and I all paid it, and I bought it for $400.
But it happened twice because someone else at LVO did the same thing when he beat them. They were playing dragons, he beat them, and they immediately sold their army.
Yeah, and he wasn't playing. What was it? He was playing Big Yellows. He wasn't even playing the one where they can't shoot him outside of 12. Like just this Chad of a man. This jolly human being who like takes all this time. Like he's an old guy that like he teaches, but like he also like dedicates his time to like make events in SoCal and San Diego area. And he's actually one of the biggest reasons why like we actually have a lot of terrain at our events, and without him I don't think we would have as much like high quality terrain.
Yeah, he's a pillar of the community for sure. It's just hilarious how that happened twice to the same person, the nicest guy ever. Like, but so let's take a look at his list here. He's playing Big Yellers, shooty shoot McShoot. So he's got these 12 bolt boys and 2 beast skewers. And Big Yellers gives you plus 3 inches of range. And also turn 1, you get to reroll A1 on your hit rolls for those guys. Then you got 20 Gut Rippas, the little stabby infantry dudes, 2 units of 10 Hobgrots, Shackles. That's interesting. I'll talk about that later. I play Cruel Boys a lot for people who don't know, so like there's a lot of cool tech here actually. So he's got Swamp Claw Shamans to buff things, a Vulture boss right here. He's got Loudon for double roar. Interesting choice there. I have not seen that before. A Foot Killaboss is his general with Egomaniac, so it's really hard to kill this guy. And then Snatch a Boss with, to buff everyone. He's a pretty fighty unit. So some interesting stuff going on here. For one, double battle regiment. You're always going to be low drops. It's really important for your dirty tricks and stuff like that. So he's doing that. He's got a lot of like disabling things happening. The Loudon for like double roaring on stuff. He can create interesting situations alongside his like very hard to kill stab growl. Like he can do a good amount of damage and lock people down and make things awkward for people. The Soul Snare Shackles also does this, like where he's putting people in the positions where like they can't really play the game they want to. He's giving people a lot of raw power for this, but like Shackles preventing people from charging you plays really nicely into his grand strat here, in and out lats. He basically has to, half his army has to survive the game. That's what his grand strat is.
Yeah.
So when you think of his army in that context, as opposed to like I'm going to kill you, but rather my grand strat is half my army will live, he's going to be shooting at you with these things, putting down shackles, and just like preventing you from really playing the game you want to, and just keep shooting you all game. The recent battle tactics that came out and stuff like that really made that easier, because you can play a safer game with Cruel Boys while you continue to shoot them. So you really want to come into him, but he makes it hard for you. The multiple Hobgrot Slitta units, the big block of Gut Rippas, and you can do stuff like the Swamp Color Shaman can actually get +1 to save the Gut Rippas, Mystic Shield on the Gut Rippas, the -1 to hit, turn 1 -1 to wound. He's roaring multiple units with the Vulture. Like you can do a lot of cool stuff with this list, and it's just fun.
Yeah. I feel like the best comparison I could think of for this list would be Vanilla Hearthstone. The very first deck you get is Jaina Proudmoore. It's got a little bit of everything. It's not overpowered. It's not bad. It's just good. It's going to teach you a little bit of everything. You can play in every phase. Your opponent can do what they're going to do, and you just play a good, honest game of Warhammer. That's kind of what this list is. You've got your basic screens. You've got your tactic of shooting. You've got some fightiness. Yeah.
That's a great way to describe it. That is a perfect way to describe it. Like it's got like the damage units, but it's not all damage. It's got the survivable units, not all survivable. It's very, very balanced, and it's like the epitome of Pharaoh while having some cheeky tricks poked in there, for fun moments. So it looks like a very fun list to play. It actually looks not dissimilar from something that I was trying, although there's definitely different changes I would do. But it's cool. It's a cool list.
Yeah. So it's funny enough, you brought up the Jaina Proudmoore like from Hearthstone, but now instead of just Jaina just like talking, like now I just imagine Scott Reed's face appearing and just saying "smashing and bashing" like when you bring out the card. Yeah, his signature phrase. Like someone needs to Photoshop that. Just Scott on Jaina's face, just saying "smashing and bashing."
That man is a treasure.
Why not Scott in a Jaina cosplay?
Oh my god!
Let's go, dude.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Someone needs to do that.
Look, I was saying that like at some point we need to like have an artist commission him, like just being a dragon slayer, just like
slaying the dragons.
On top of a dead dragon.
2 dead dragons beneath him. That'd be so funny.
Yeah.
We should do that. I think you would like that. It would make him laugh. So that's all our destruction list. We finally are on to order.
Refresh, because we actually had a player sign up for the event because of our stream, actually.
Let's go.
It's actually it was one of our commentators, Purple Goat Man, has actually signed up, and he's bringing out Seraphon. His name is Brian Horton. So I know you just joined. I know from reading the SoCal chat, you just took a 20-year hiatus or a long hiatus from Warhammer, and now you've come back to this game in AOS.
We are going to rip his list a new one. Just be brutal about it. Let's go. Let's start with Brian Horton's list. I haven't seen it yet.
Dude, he's what's it called? He's Coalesced, bro.
Yeah,
Coalesced. Let's go.
He's Chad Coalesced.
Chad, ultimate, dude. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
I'm already
This is
excited.
actually going to be my first time looking at this list, so can't wait to see how it looks.
So got the Astrolith Bearer. Well, okay, actually, Abbott, you're a Seraphon main player. Tell us about this list as you read it.
Okay, let's see here. So we've got Coalesce, Claws Cost, Spellcasting Savant is his Grand Strat. We've got the Astro Bearer as his General, which is an interesting choice. Vengeful Tome, Arcane Tome. He's got the Arcane Tome.
What does Vengeful Defender do?
So, funny you just said I'm a Seraphon player. I am a Starborn Seraphon player.
That's true. Okay. I know what Vengeful Defender does. So Vengeful Defender, at the start of I think it's during start, but it's during the hero phase, the General can pick a couple of units to move in the hero phase as long as you're in your deployment zone. So basically, cool. It gives him a hero phase move.
That's dope. Okay, that's really good.
He's got looks like it's a reinforced block of Lancers, reinforced block of Warriors, Guard, Croxagore. Yeah, man, this looks like just a straightforward. You're gonna move up. You got your -1 damage across your Saurus and your Croxagore units. I think is it monsters too?
Yeah, it's anything with the Saurus or Croxagore keyword, and the general gets to move himself as well. So essentially, you get to move 3 units basically.
Yeah, or scaly skin, whatever
the scaly skin is. It's basically like not skinks, basically, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's basically that isn't a skink or the slan.
Yeah, like not skinks.
Got a cheeky little hunters of Hunchy with the Starborn Bolus. So you deep strike them, score a couple of tactics with that. It's got the Acolytes with Croak.
This Bastillodon is giving me traumatic flashbacks to when Gavin was just making everyone sad with old book with the Bastillodons in with the -1 damage just blasting him off the table. They're much more fair now, but
yeah,
it's just giving me like they're actually at 180 points. Like it's pretty it's still a 2-up save. It has 3 shots, 3s and 3s, rend to like 3 damage each. Like it actually does
it's definitely
good
very
damage.
Good, and it's so hard to kill. Like it's so hard to kill.
Yeah, I've never understood anyone who thought that it was a downgrade going from the 1-up that degrades to a 2-up always. Like
no, it's incredible.
No, yeah. Honestly, not much to say about this list. It's a honest, straightforard.
I think
the objectives.
I think it's interesting.
I actually have a good amount to say about this list because I've actually been doing a lot of research about Coalesce. Because
for this.
Yeah, I got some of your Coalesce sitting right here on my desk.
Painting all of my Coalesce. But so essentially, to talk a little bit about Coalesce, besides it being -1 damage, which lends it to being one of the most resilient armies in the game. It also can it's like the melee side of the book. So where Starborn wants to teleport, summon, and just hit you with spells, this list wants to like sit on objectives, grind, and just fight you down. So essentially, to go on about the Astrolith Baron. So the Astrolith Baron is there on the list to give a 6-up ward, wholly within 12, and give Croak +1 to cast. So even though Croak makes much more use of the damage spells in Starborn, having Croak in Coalesced is a good choice still, because he could still unbind as many spells as possible, I believe, with being a +2, and he can still cast 4 spells. So he could still cast. So if with the Absolute Bearer, he could extend his Mortal Wound Bomb, which is he could pick 3 units to take D3, and he casts this 4 times. So if anyone wants to fight this list on an objective, essentially it has to not only deal with the 20 Saurus Warriors and the Agrodons and the Croxagores, it also has to deal with Croak just blasting you. So it actually this list is kind of like a melee castle where it will sit on objectives, dare you to fight it in melee with -1 damage, while Croak is just blasting you from afar. Not to mention, there's a spell in Coalesced where he can buff Celestite weapons on the Agrodon Lancers and the Warriors to have extra rend on their weapons. So Lancers will actually be rend 3. Yeah, they'll be rend 3 with a buff.
Yeah.
And then Warriors will be rend 2, which is actually like it ups the damage potential of this army a lot. Not to mention, Agrodon Lancers like to get stuck in because the longer that they're stuck in combat, they have a rage mechanic where the Raptors get extra attacks. So the Raptor attacks are 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, rend 2 damage each. So imagine this just keeps building up, and each model, so 6 units, so that's going to be about 18 attacks starting off with the Raptors. Not to mention the Lancers on top, or 2 or 3 attacks each.
It's fighting super. So like, I like that when you explain how the Croak works here. I think that's really cool. We have this melee violent castle, but if you come and engage with it, he's not only going to fight you and fight you really well and not die, but you're also going to start taking a ton of mortal wounds from Lord Croak. And if you don't come and fight it, Lord Croak's just going to buff things and do other like things. So it's really cool. I actually fought Coalesced for the first time recently as Idneth, and I will say that Coalesced are very good at fighting Idneth because I do no damage.
Coalesced actually is a good list that could beat a lot of damage to armies, or that rely on damage too. because a lot of lists just lose half of their damage from fighting a list like this. And also with the pregame move, most of the time the Seraphon Coalesce list is actually going to get on objectives faster than most opponents would. So then now they have to deal with all these Saurus Warriors, which are a base, like, they're a 4-up save, but then if they get on objective, they become a 3-up save, and they just keep save stacking.
Yeah.
And then...
Yeah, it's really cool, like, brawler castle. I like what this list does. It does have, like, there is one big weakness. So anyone who plays Coalesce stuff like this, they know, like, the difference between fighting someone who's damage 2 versus someone who's either 1 or more than 2 is night and day. Like, when you fight damage 2 armies, this list is crazy good. And then when you fight someone who's damage 1, just mass attacks, you're like, damn, my entire allegiance ability just disappeared. So it's, like, kind of polarizing in a way, but I think it still has
makes
played.
Up for it by being tanky. Like,
yeah,
most of the army can be on a 3-up save.
It's still good. It's just, like, you definitely lose a lot of your power when you're not having the damage output of the opponent.
Luckily for him, I think a lot of the lists at Small Town have a lot of damage to components, so I can see, like, I can honestly, even though this guy is, like, newer to, like, I think, he's newer to our, or he just joined our community, I can see this list being, like, a dark horse and just, like, upsetting, like, a lot of, like,
this has a lot of power to it. I agree. I have no idea how he's going to do. I've never seen him play, obviously. But I like the list. It seems rock solid, consistent, and well balanced and well done. So excited to see how it performs.
Yeah. It plays in every phase. It plays in spellcasting, potentially with damage and buffs. It plays with some shooting with the Bastiladon and the Starborn Bolas, and then it also plays the melee game really well. So, and I think having an army that, like, plays in all phases well, and I think that they're probably going to nerf Starborn in the future, according to, like,
it just seems likely. Like, I don't know what they're gonna do, but I would be surprised if they don't. I'm hoping they take Seraphon. They nerf Starborn, but then buff a lot of the War Scrolls. So
I wouldn't be surprised if Coalesce gets buff again. And the funny thing is that Coalesce at Everwinter, which was like a 120 man event, was one of the 3 5-ums, and he ran something similar to this.
Can I interrupt you guys for a second?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that Beast of Chaos are in Older Worlds, but then like Skaven aren't and such? So, Matt, your army's gone.
Yeah. Do you remember we still have that bet that, like, if they're not squad in 5 years, you're giving me like $100 or something?
They are 100% going to squat them very soon. Everything that's in Old Worlds is getting squatted, and everything that was in Legacy Old Worlds is not getting squatted. 100%.
We'll see. I mean, we've got 100%. AOS has got, or Beast of Chaos have gotten a lot of updates in Age of Sigmar with models and everything.
No, they haven't.
Yeah, we have.
They've got nothing.
They got a new Beast Lord today, sir.
We have Beast Lord. We have Underworld. We have a lot of Underworld.
I'm sorry,
some Underworld's warbands.
They got the new Doom Bull model today. So.
But yeah,
did they really? That's awesome.
It's from
the Blood Bowl one. You literally just toss an axe and
that's pretty. That's
pretty closed hand. Yeah.
But yeah, Sam, we're doing a stream, so a little off topic. We can debate about this later when you owe me $100 in a couple years. But yeah, really interesting list, Brian Horton. Happy to have you join our community just now over the stream. So hope you do really well.
All right.
One last thing again. $100.
Did somebody already talk about how the Agrodon Lancers are going to have a field day with those zombies?
Oh, it's gonna be fun. Yeah, he's gonna just grind up fights, dude. It's gonna be nasty.
You can get to the max rage. It'll be glorious.
Like 15 attacks each. Yeah, crazy stuff. It'd be super fun. I'm excited to see that. Actually, I probably if it's happening in my games, I'm gonna watch him just pick up zombies if that happens. So we're gonna move on to me and me playing a basically meta list, which is unusual for me.
Trash.
Shorks. I'm playing a lot of sharks. I'm coming in like full Jaws mode right here. I've got 9 sharks in a shiver, in shivers at double battle regiment. Smash King, if you know what Smash King is, Unstoppable Fury gives a ton of bonus attacks when I have High Tide. Arcane Tome, and I have Savage Ferocity for plus attacks on the mount as well, so it's even more offensive based. I have a Tidecaster who has Counter Current, which is an anti-charge, anti-run spell. And then I have Severeth, the fox from Lumineth. Basically, this list is unfun bullshit, and I just hate everybody. So I fly around, I shoot an insane amount of shots at you, and they all have exploding sixes, which they shouldn't have on shooting, but they do right now. And I fly around and fly around and fly around, and then when you're good and weak, I just jump in and eat you.
Yeah, it's a lot of D3 damage shots, 4 shots each, 3 and 3s, Rend 1. So it's just, even though Rend 1 is like not, that's crazy with all defense, it's just the weight of shots that are coming at you. And because the Sharks they move 14, they have a 24-inch range, and they can, and then in turn 2, or depending on what the tide is, they can essentially run and shoot and just have the mobility to spread out. So it's really hard to actually engage this army when you want to. Not to mention Severeth can smash terrain piece because he moves like essentially
Severeth
36 inches.
Yeah, he moves 24, then he shoots, and he moves in 12 inches in the shooting phase, and then he can charge if he wants to. So basically this army can be wherever it wants to be. But it has some very real weaknesses. Like, it's very squishy. Like, my entire army is like under 100 wounds, and the best save is a 4-up. And like its rend is only 1 on pretty much everything except for the Smash King. Like, it's bad. It sounds really like crazy when you read on paper. It is very good, but it's
it has to rely on like killing to an extent because of the wound density. It can't really play for objective as well, but it makes up for it by having a lot of like offensive power and like mobility.
Yeah, because like all these are single models, so like fighting over objectives is really hard for me. Like, it definitely has some serious weaknesses, but it is actually very fun to play as. It's not as fun to play against, admittedly, because it's a lot of shooting, and shooting armies, when they're long range, shooting armies tend to be kind of unfun for the opponent. But I'm trying to see if this is what I should be bringing to LVO or not. So I'm trying to win LVO. I probably won't win LVO, but like I wanted to bring as powerful a thing as I could, and I do think I'll do pretty well. I'm not sure if I'm going to end up like winning.
He's also trying to go for best INF player in the ITC ranking, which is like which is the national rankings for like armies and players that go to events. And right now he's at the top of it. So
yeah.
Let's see if he can keep his title as the Achillean King at LVO.
Yeah.
I mean, a bunch of sea creatures and a fox. We've all watched that hentai before. So.
Well, I mean, all Aaron has to do if he, has a chance of winning an event is to bring out the whole ocean.
Bring out the whole ocean. Yeah, this list is it's good. It's not a lot to talk about. It's very simple. It's a spam list, but it'll be fun to play as. The actual games on the table are fun.
Yeah, it probably gets nerfed after LVO, which is in like next week.
I pretty much guarantee it. Like I'm hoping they just make it so the 6s don't explode on shooting, because I don't think they should be doing that. Like, because it just leans into this really
obnoxious
play style. Like, it's not that it's too good; it's that it's unfun. And I'm playing it. I don't normally like to play unfun armies, but here I am.
All right, let's go to the next order army.
Ian Michelise. Ian's very good, but does anyone specifically want to talk about this list?
Yeah, I think Kyle is our resident KO expert here, along with Barker, who I see in the chat. So, yeah, Kyle, why don't you start off with this list?
Okay. It's like the thing needs to catch up. Right, here it is. So we've got... Should be Spark Zon, right?
Yeah, he's Barrack Zon.
Okay, cool. Spark Zon is +1 to hit. Oh, he's got it written there. Nice. +1 to hit and wound on the charge. Grand strat is, make sure there's nothing else flying. No other flying behemoths. And so, I mean, the big thing to know about this army is that he is not playing 30 Thunders with Bridge and an Ironclad. He is a base Dwarf player, and he's going to be charging.
Yeah,
the most based player.
Drekky Flint is pretty sick as a kind of like extra piece in there. That makes it's got a pretty gnarly shooting profile.
Yeah, he does. I don't remember what it is, but I remember it's very good. It's like why is this so powerful?
2d6, 3s and 3s, rend 1, damage 2.
Yeah, like.
And also, Kyle, since like probably a lot, like probably a good decent amount of people in the chat don't know what KO does, would you be able to like break it down how this like KO list would play and like all the synergies?
So, the biggest thing to know is that, you know, if you haven't played against KO before, KO is an army that like doesn't play like any other army in the game. They have these transports where they put dudes inside of, and the dudes inside can shoot and fight from. But the cool thing about frigates is that when they charge something, they do collision mortals, as you know, this giant boat is crashing into you, and then the guys are inside pop out, and they have fight first. So think like a pirate ship that's like boarding, except it's boarding your face, right? So the Sky Wardens pop out. They all have fight first. They all have 2-inch range, so they can kind of pop out behind each other. And after they fight, if they're still in combat with something, then they can retreat and then drop bombs as they're retreating. So like it's a hit and run sort of army where you're like moving in and out. It's really cool.
And it hits extremely hard. Like you'd be surprised how hard it hits. But like when things go wrong for it, they go very wrong. That's the other downside of it. Like
yeah. So the big problem with them is that if you get ambushed, say like Beast of Chaos, like kill your boat. If the guys cannot get out of the boat, like there's no space around the boat, then everybody inside dies. So it's like this tightrope of like going, peppering with your short range guns, but then knowing when to charge, and then like trying to kind of, you have a lot less models and a lot less. It's a lot more fragile than a lot of the other armies in the game that have like recursion and stuff. Like a Fort Rally is really good, but if you lose the unit, there's not a lot of wounds in the unit for most of these guys. Everything in here has a 4-up save except for the boats and the heroes, right?
Yeah.
So they can kind of just keel over and die. The heroes don't have wards, so they can die to like more to wound sniping.
Keel over.
Yeah. But so then the cool thing to know is that like the boats. Does he have a 3d6 charge?
Yeah, he does.
Yes.
Yes, he has a 3d6 charge. Yeah.
So like he can. Does he have an admiral?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can like run and charge the boat. Reroll. Sorry, when you run and charge with an admiral, you can 2d6 run. So you can like get your guys out of the boat, in front of the boat, 2d6 run the boat, drop some bombs, turn around, come back. The guys who were in the boat who got out can move to get back into the boat, and then the boat can 3d6 charge, and then collide with something. Then the guys inside get out.
Yeah.
The hero has this whole like, it has a bunch of abilities that seem like they're kind of hard to pull off, but if you think about just everything that you can do, and then you can make some pretty crazy plays that your opponents don't really like expect. And you know, they're not really expecting KO to be a fighting army anyway. So when these guys come in, they're hitting on 2s and 2s, rend 1, damage 2. It can be pretty gnarly. And then the retreat afterwards, and like spreading out.
Yeah.
And, like your opponent has to go and chase them down. It can be really
difficult. So as a player, Ian is like very precise, and he's many times like got me with surprise movements that I just did not see coming. He's like really good at like veiling his intent when he's playing. So it's like, oh, he's just doing this, and like he can do all these crazy like roundabout ways of moving around the table you don't see coming and just blow you out of the water with his boats.
Yeah, I mean, this list is just very. So a lot of KO's lists just like to revolve around like shooting just all the damage in one phase, and that's it. But like Kyle was saying, because this list has a lot of it spreads out its damage in not only shooting, but it also does charge mortal wounds. And then it does melee, so it has damage in like 3 phases, so it makes it very versatile, and like he can play in every phase of the game, which is like I think important to doing well.
Yeah, I think he will do really well. There's a couple matchups he doesn't want for sure, but like if he can dodge those couple guys, I think he's gonna do pretty damn well. He does have atrocious dice luck, like on the same level as me. We're just sitting here rolling ones at each other like for turns on end. So we'll see if that gets him this time. But
yeah,
Ian, you roll ones with that navigator.
Yeah, well he does. He rolls ones on everything else as well. Our last game we played, I won, but it was like a game of who could roll worse, and then I finally stopped rolling bad first. But it was pretty funny. All right, so there's another KO list, I think. Yeah, Barker. So we're going to go over the other KO list as well because we're talking about KO. So let's do it. This one, very different. It's
like...
but it's actually not that different. Okay, so it's still got like Endrin Rigger. It's still like a more melee oriented list. This is definitely a punch. It's not shooting. I mean, it shoots, of course.
There is actually a lot of shooting that comes out of the Endrin Riggers. So from the Endrin Riggers, I think I had Barker explain to me. There's about 54 shots that come at you. 3s and 3s rend to 1 damage each. So it is actually a lot of pepper.
You know, you actually were one of the first people to play against this list, Matt.
Yeah, I remember we were testing it when I wanted to see what KO could do with my Beast of Chaos.
When the book kind of first was revealed, I was trying out a very, very similar list, if not actually the exact same list. Because I was like, oh, you know, Brock and Barknar can make 3 things, 3 boats run, shoot, and charge. Do you want to have more than 1 boat? And then the riggers get +1 attack if Brock also charged, right? So
yeah,
these riggers who normally, you know, they hit pretty hard normally, but with +1 attack, you basically
nothing lives. Nothing lives. Like they kill anything. Like I this list is like hammers, whereas like Ian's list is like a bunch of like smaller fighting units. This one's like taking that same kind of core idea, but switching it to just mega ultra hammers that will kill literally anything. Interesting change of approach here. One question I have: the Ironclad seems like a weird choice to me.
It has to do with, sorry, which one does he have? He has great
Sky.
He just PM'd me. He has prudency shoots.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So everybody's inside. You can fit all the guys inside. This does not have the strike first thing that the frigates do.
Yeah.
So they're not hopping out. They're not going to fight like that. But instead, it's one big boat that heals. Does he have the dirigible? Yes, he does. So you heal a ridiculous amount of wounds on this Ironclad. Like if you ever don't kill the Ironclad, it heals to full. That's
how does the healing? Is it like D3 each model healing it?
No, so you roll at the end of any phase, once per turn. So he can, since it's 2 different units, he doesn't have to do all of it at once. Say he rolls 9 dice. On 3-ups, it's 1 wound. On 5-ups, it's 2 wounds. I think that's what it is. So, like, let's say you get shot, and you roll 9 dice, you just heal whatever you got shot, and then someone charges you, or they do charge mortals, and then you just heal, and then at the end of the charge phase, actually, something to know is that if the riggers are in melee with something, they can't actually heal. So that's something that he has to worry about. But anytime the boat is like clearing out all of the enemies in the area, then it's just healing to full.
That's okay. So that's a pretty cool little like alternate way of approaching a kind of similar unit selection.
And the hauler also gives a 6-up ward, so you know your 18. There's 20 wounds is functionally what, like closer to 23,
24 area, and then you're on a good save and you're healing, so it makes that like actually one-shotting it very hard. That's cool. I like what that's going for. Okay, it's two different ideas,
I mean,
but
the list has also, besides having a lot of punch, it also has a lot of ways, because KO can get tactics without wizards pretty reliably. It can play the tactics game well, which is why he has the Nullstone artifact. So what I really like about Nullstone, the Pouch of Null Dust in this list, is that because KO is like very weak to like mortals and magic, he has it just in case he thinks that, like, let's say he's in range of the enemy army of wizards and everything. If he thinks he's gonna get blown up by like Blizzard or like whatever, he can just pop Null Dust. Be like, okay, I'm popping Null Dust. If you roll doubles of 1s, 2s, and 3s, and with any of your casts, you miscast and you just take D6.
Yeah.
Or you primal miscast, depending on like what happens. So
it's
a very good like defensive like measure against magic armies.
Yeah. Okay, that's a cool thing. I think I don't know how
Also,
it's going to perform, but
he has Celestium Burst Grenade to remove wards. So let's say
yeah.
he's fighting something on a big ward save, he could just like on a 2-up, it's gone, and then he just blows them up.
It definitely is like it's leaning into what these guys here are doing, which the engineers, where it's just like, if I want something dead, it is dead. And I guess the decision making of what you're killing and how you're how you're going about that is like the big hard part, because he's like big units, which is like high risk, high reward. Like he's killing everything, but like he's vulnerable too.
He does have the 4th rally in the list for the article, so
that's true. Yeah.
So it actually will keep his like Edgebringers alive.
Yeah. It's a cool list. I have no idea how he's going to perform with it.
It's cool to see that like none of the KO lists are just like straight like Thunders or like whatever. Like they all like are doing their own thing, because I think the KO book is like more than just Thunders. I think people are just they're not willing to experiment as much as these two. So we're happy to have Ian and Barker as a part of our communities, and Kyle too, because he also plays the army. Always trying to experiment with KO. Do what they can.
Okay, there's no other KO players. Just double checking. So now,
I think we just go. I think go up, because there's also order players that we missed, because since we're trying to go in alphabetical order.
I'm going. I went back up to where we are. So we're at Kurt Roper, playing his Doc, Daughters of Cain, Kiltnar.
Yeah. Also, to remind the stream, even though it looks like we skipped names, we've been actually going in order of Grand Alliance. So we've covered Chaos, which is our biggest Grand Alliance, Death and Destruction, and now our last Grand Alliance we're going over is Order.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Alright, so this list looks like it's a lot of moving pieces. 3 Instant Witch Elves, 2 Avatars of Cain, that's spicy. 2 Instant Heart Renders for infinite battle tactics. Because he's playing Doc. Yep. He's going to get 5 battle tactics. Like, you ain't not stopping him from getting battle tactics. That's for damn sure. Got Marathi, of course. Had Queen and Collision of Blood. She's like bringing AoE buffs, turn these little 10-man witch elves into absolute blenders that hit way above their weight. And then, this is interesting, the Free Guild Cavaliers. What do you think he was thinking when he put those in there?
I've been trying to figure that out.
So I have Doc, so I can actually go over a lot of the list as to why it's constructed the way it is. So if you scroll up to the top, so the sub-faction is Keltnar. So what that is essentially in the sub-faction, all units with Keltnar can retreat and charge. So I believe, everything in this army except Marathi, who has the Hagnar keyword, can retreat and charge. So it lets these Doc units not be tied down, and because of their fast mobility and pluses to charge, they can usually dance in and out of their fights to get on top of their targets. The one big weakness of Doc though is that because most of the army is on a 6-up or 5-up save, but it does have a 6-up ward, so it's something you have to keep in mind. Where this army is it's a glass cannon like Beast of Chaos, where it can hit very hard, but it cannot take a hit at all. Although this is somewhat mitigated by the fact that the Hag Queen on Cauldron of Blood has an aura where she can give a 5-up ward. And then also High Priest lets them do another prayer, and then Crown of Woe. What that does is that it stops Rally and Inspiring Presence within 9 inches. If it kills one model, it extends it to 15 for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very powerful piece where each witch elf with all the buffs and prayers can essentially be set into line and just up trade for 110 points. The Avatars of Cain are actually really cheap now because it's a 5-up ward with 7 or 8 wounds. It's 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, Ren 2, 3 damage each. And then with Doc, with how they work is that they get accelerating buffs that stack each battle round, where they get +1 to charge, +1 to hit, and then +1 to wound, and then just the entire army just becomes more consistent as the game goes on.
Yeah.
The problem is that it has to try to survive. But though, because they have Marathi in the list, Marathi, her mechanic, so she's 12 wounds on a 4-up save, but however, her mechanic is that in each turn she can only take 3 wounds of damage. So it forces opponents to overspill damage onto her, where they have to waste time dealing with her because she just is a big monster that takes 4 turns to die, and she does a lot of damage back in like response.
Yeah, she's got at least 4 turns of play, no matter what happens. So you can do crazy, like really aggressive plays, and you know that she will not die for at least 4 total turns. This is a really powerful piece.
Yeah, it's an aggressive. Yeah, I mean, this list is an aggressive army that can play for tactics really well. Like, if it ever doubles you, it's really hard to deal with. Although it cannot take a double in return, unlike a lot of armies where, like, let's say if you're playing Coalesce, Coalesce can take a double, can tank like being double. This army cannot. But it has ways to play around it. So the invocation it has is Heart of Fury, which is -1 damage, wholly within 12. So it's a way of keeping the army alive as long as possible. And then the army also has Heart Renders, score easy battle tactics, and just score. Yeah. The Cavaliers are... So the Cavaliers...
I'm kind of wondering if the Cavaliers... They're on a 3-up save, and they're a little fighty when they charge. I'm kind of just wondering if he's planning on using that as like kind of like an initial land bowl. Like, charge them up, charge them into something, and try and soak up. If they can live for 1 or maybe even 2 turns, they've done their job.
Buys him some time while he's stacking up his buffs that he gets over turns. That's a pretty good way to play it. And I would not put it past Kurt at all to do something like that. He's a very like methodical 5-turn type player. So
yeah, Kurt. This is a very like Kurt list where like he doesn't take anything that like people takes. He likes taking his like own stuff. And the Cavaliers are there, like for probably to be an anvil, like you guys said, but it's a good trading piece because on the charge, it's like 3s and 3s, Ren 2 damage each. Like it just will just up trade versus certain things or just clear out things.
I mean, I've seen this man get hold 1, hold 2, hold more, and a tactic for 3 turns with 3 models on the board. Like, he's got plays.
Yeah, he's really good at playing like with things you wouldn't expect to have happen. Like he's great at that. He makes things hard every time I fought him.
Yeah, he's very technical, and like he was one of the best SoCal players back in 2.0, and he still like does very well in 3.0.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm happy to have him in this event, and also to go over the grand strat. Why we were like joking about like dock tactics and grand strat. The grand strategy of this list is that every unit has to fight or die by the end of the game.
It basically reads, "Did you play?" Grand strat. But it's hilarious.
Although you can mess up this grand strategy, especially if you're like winning, where like let's say if you forget to like fight in melee with some of your units like the Heart Renders or Little Marathi, then you just don't get your grand strength.
Yeah, so. Yeah, it you can stop it. It's just hilariously easy in general.
Yeah, Daughters of Cain actually like is on the weaker side right now. It's not one of the power armies like it used to be, but it's not an army like I would like sleep on if you're playing against it. Like it's squishy, but like it does a lot. It can play for like battle tactics and the missions really well.
I also think their win rate is partially deflated because they are hard to play. They're very squishy, and if you mess up a little bit, you can explode. So it's like they are better than their win rate suggests, but they are definitely on the weaker end of things. I think we should move on to Kyle and have him talk about his list.
Oh yeah, is he next? Oh, yes, he is.
He's next.
All right, Kyle, you're up. Talk to us about this, Phil.
Army. What is this?
Your army.
It's nothing to see here.
Judge, he forgot the AL at the beginning of his list. It's just his allegiance, not allegiance. Ban him immediately.
Damn. The judge is the one who put the list in.
Yellow card.
You can't spell banned.
Oh my god.
He's cheating. He's cheating.
God damn, the SoCal spelling meta is just like awful.
SoCal spelling
man.
gotcha.
The spelling gotcha.
My allegiance is City of Sigmar. Actually there's an S. I'm playing the Cities of Sigmar. Grey Water Fastness, which allows me to all attack 3 times. Which essentially means everything that has a gun is going to all out attack. It's going to be great.
It's going to be super fun for everybody.
So, the general plan here is that Steam tanks have the human keyword because they're cool like that. And then the Warforgers, everyone knows what they do, hopefully. +1 to save and mortals and 6s to hit.
For people that don't know cities, can you explain how like the orders work and everything?
Right. So, humans are kind of the best of cities right now just because they have access to 5 orders and 4 of them are phenomenal.
Racist.
The first one being the sort of two that everyone has is +2 to movement and counter charge. The other unique human ones are +1 to attacks if you haven't fought in combat yet this game. Counter shoot if anytime anything shoots any unit within 3 inches of a hero who has this order, a shooting unit within 3 inches of that hero can shoot anything.
Yeah, that one's
range.
That one's just disgusting, dude.
And then lastly is suppressing fire, which is I've never actually used it, but it's a tactic that exists. I guess that's kind of cool. But essentially, steam tanks benefit from all 5 of these because they want to move fast. They like to counter charge because they do collision mortals. They like to counter shoot because they have a fantastic gun. They like to go in and charge something. You get +1 attack, and then they can sometimes do suppressing fire. So the idea here is that I'm playing steam tanks because they're good in 3 different phases. 3 of those phases being your opponent's 3 phases.
Yeah.
So, and they have a 2-up save, which goes to a 1 because the Warforgers. And then you can all defense 2 of them because the commander allows you to do that. So, like, these steam tanks don't die.
Yeah.
The Pontifex is there to give a 5-up ward. I have 2 command core because what do you call it?
Because their war scroll is 4 pages long, and why the fuck not?
It's quite ridiculous. But even beyond that, it's the fact that a typical opponent will have about 4 CP in a battle round, right? Sometimes 5, but realistically it's usually 4 or 5. And the way that command core works is that you're going to be denying 4 CP over a battle round because it's by turn. So you're essentially just shutting down your opponent completely with 1 model. 2 models, but 1 model in both units. So even if you take like 15 wounds, you're still denying. Even if you take 17 wounds, you're still denying their CP. It's just a phenomenal unit.
Yeah.
And then it also heals the steam tanks with the bonus of sometimes healing fusils, if that matters. But like the biggest thing to know about this, I guess, is the fact that range matters a lot in this game, right? Like the fact that everything has a 27-inch profile before moving means that in a game where like most of the armies you play against have to come to you, it sometimes takes people 2 turns to move that far, right? So
yeah.
Like just kind of leaning into the fact that I can start 35, 37 inches away from you and still hit you, whereas you'll have to, like, if you take first, if you're not moving 20 inches, you're not going to get to me, and if I take first, I'm going to hit you. So it's just it's always like just a really hard list to fight against, but its weaknesses being just mortal wounds. Sometimes you fail to roll the 3-up for the ward save.
Yeah.
I've lost once so far with this list.
Yeah, I currently have you picked as the winner of the event, most likely. You're my number 1 pick. The list is really strong. You're a very strong player. City still needs some fixing in here or there, but it's got a lot of the oppressive stuff got fixed, but like there's still some things where it's like.
I mean, if the rumors are true, Cities is getting toned down a lot.
I wouldn't be surprised. Some of the points costs are. He's not using the abusive points costs here, but some of them are like this is like, kind of egregious. But like beyond that, this list is actually a fairly well balanced, flexible list. Like it's not an abusive list. It's just very good and it suits your play style, and you're a very good player. I can see it losing. There's definitely ways to beat it and stuff like that, but I think it's very strong, and you're my number 1 pick for winning it with this list.
I'm scared of Eugene.
Yeah, Eugene's very good into what you're doing.
Yeah.
I feel like this list would get bodied by, again, a Starborn Seraphon list.
I just played it. I didn't get bodied, but it was a fun, interesting, close game.
Mm.
Well, Noe might be coming to the event where Noe contributes to your only loss of far with his Fire Slayers. So maybe Chad Dwarves, if he shows up to the event, will overcome it again. We'll see.
Pontifex also does help with the matchup with the Seraphine, because you can just really make their life more difficult. She's not going to kill them on her own, but she does make it like unpleasant. This is great. It's flexible. Cities is very hard to describe on paper, so you have to play against it to really like put it in a picture. But I've watched you play some games, stuff like that. It plays like an army, which I really like that about it. Like, it feels like a legit army. It's a cool list. And Steam takes are spicy.
It seems like Eugene is also, if you look at the chat, Kyle, Eugene is also headhunting into you, too. He says, I'll deny your 5-0, Kyle. You are my target number 1 on this tournament.
So, while we're talking about Cities of Sigmar Greywater Fastness armies, right below, we have Matt Abbott, also in Cities of Sigmar Greywater Fatness, also in this chat.
I thought you said Greywater fatness for a second.
Oh yeah,
I heard it.
These some thickies over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt Abbott, why don't you tell us about your list?
Yeah, man. So I'll go over my list. It's similar in ways, but a little bit different, obviously. I'm Cities of Sigmar again, Greywater Fastness. Same strategy. I don't think Kyle touched on his Grand Strat. So mine's Banners Held High, which is to essentially just have more totems or more literally models with flags, I think, currently than my opponent does. In my current list, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 banners. So you have to kill any army without a banner. It's pretty much a given for the Grand Strat. Same deal, I've got my double Warforger, 1 for giving the +1 to save, 1 for literally just getting flaming weapons off, and for no other purpose. A bit of a pet choice for myself is Talia Vedra. 1, I love the model. 2, I found in my practice games so far, she's kind of like, she can go off and be kind of a bully piece on a flank. Send her off on her own, she's got her own 6-up ward. She's not, I wouldn't say she's Maw Crusher fighty, like she's not killy, but she can pop off. She can do some real damage.
Yeah.
Especially with the couple of different orders. So you can give her, one of the Cities of Sigmar orders is to essentially give her 1 extra attack to all her profiles if she charges. So you give that on her, she's going to, her Metacore is going to have an extra attack, her Stinger's going to have an extra attack. Talia, who I found herself has done the most damage, who does more damage than her actual mount. She gets an extra attack, so it helps out with that. It's also helpful to give her the other Cities of Sigmar order as a countercharge, which, kind of works like Iron Suns. You charge at the end of the enemy hero phase. So if she's off on her own, I can touch an objective, and then my opponent can't just cheekily put a little piece of chaff, 2, 3, or you know what I mean, a piece of chaff to try and take objective because I just counter, and then Talia will take that off.
Wait, she can countercharge in the hero phase?
No, end of the enemy.
Oh, okay, the Cities of Sigmar one, order.
Yeah. I've got my Marshal, he's my general, he's getting that 4-up ward from the Command Corps. I've got his command trait, Master Ballistics. When the general himself is kind of an important fact to know, in case you ever play it yourself, when he issues all-out attack, it's also given +1 to wound to a unit. Now, Greywater Fastness, you can use all-out attack 3 times, but you're not going to be able to get that set. The same general can't issue it 3 times. So, important to know, don't let your opponents ever try and catch that on you, just in case. For kind of like the bread and butter of my list is I've got 2 blocks of 20 Fusiliers, a block of 10 Steel Helms, another block of 10 Steel Helms. Fusiliers, that's going to be 40 shots because they're almost always going to be moving in cast light formation. 40 shots, 1 unit's going to be 3s and 3s, rend 1 damage, hit rolls of 6 to an Immortal Addition. Second unit, 3s and 4s, same deal, looking for those 6s, and then on round 3, you're going to get the full rerolls for that really kind of pop-off turn.
Yeah.
And then single Command Corps, because I'm not a heretic, and there should never be more than 1 Command Corps in a list.
It's true. I shouldn't.
So, overall, it's a very central cast list. Some couple weaknesses is that, mobility's a little tough for me, I found. I'm going to really hold 1 point, and I'm going to move out slowly, so multiple objectives spread out as a little bit of a match, and then any kind of wound sink army, so, zombies, it's a tough matchup. Where the strength really comes from is kind of the mid-tables, these kind of finicky armies. So, if you shoot one of my units of You shoot with one of your units, I shoot with 2 of mine. So I'm going to be on a 3-up unrendable save with a 5-up ward from the Pontifex. So
yeah, cities is an army you have to be very carefully if you want to think about you want to shoot into, especially if you're playing KO, where you're just like, oh, if I shoot you, I can have a counter shoot order where I can make 2 of my units shoot before you.
Yeah, like I would love to play Ian. I would love to play Barker. Let's do it, Barker. You and me.
It'd be really awkward for us. For sure.
Yeah, to be honest, I would not say this is a 5-0 army. This is very matchup dependent, but it can be. It's a kind of mid-table bully army.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it plays a 5-turn game steadily across the table. Again, it feels like a real army, which I like about it. Like it feels balanced, flexible, a lot of cool stuff going on. Resilient. It's a nice list.
Yeah, I've got the same recursion from I'm getting a lot more use out of the command core as I'm bringing models back to both units, Fusiliers.
Yeah. Like your list probably should be playing too, but it's unlikely that it doesn't get changed for you. Like it.
Yeah, it's funny that when you look at the command corps, like I remember when we first looked at Gobapalooza at the beginning of this year, and we're like, wow, that's really like strong.
Yeah.
And then humans have to go, well, I guess we gotta one-up you goblins, so there it is.
Oh man, I forgot there's a second Ideneth player.
There's another thing I also want to say about Talia. Maybe you said this, Matt, but the counter charge into a monster to make it fight last is phenomenal. Like,
that's a cool tech.
That's kind of a little thing.
Plus, it might come up at some point that your Steel Helms get to rally in combat from her at some point.
At some point, yeah.
And the biggest one is really the Fusils, but Steel Helms too.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the other Ideneth player. I forgot Max, the Demon Slayer. He's also playing Ideneth. I forgot to skip down to Ideneth earlier for him. He's playing eels, slippery, slidey boys. He's going hard. Yeah, he's playing 2019 era. He's going all DPS. So he's got he plays double king. So he's got Kellyan King, the Smash King I was talking about earlier. Basically the same essential thing as I was playing on that guy. And he's got Volturnus, the special character version of the king, who on High Tide turn, which is the strike's first turn, gives +1 attack to up to 3 units. So basically, he's got 3 units of Morsar, which are the offensive eels, and then 2 units of Ishlam, which are defensive eels. This list basically flies around the table, and then it tries to either go on like bottom of 2 or top of 3 or something like that. And it does a ton of burst damage, and it hopes that's good enough. It can do a lot of damage though. Like when the Kellyan King gives +1 to hit, Volturnus also gives +1 to hit, so they're +2 to hit just in case you have a minus. Volturnus is giving +1 attack to these guys. They're doing impact mortals, they're rend 2 damage, blowing things up with like 20-inch moves with flying, and like it does a ton of damage, but it can be very fragile. What's interesting about his Iron Rack, his sub-faction here, allows him to use either the retreat in charge or the run-in charge on one of his units each turn. So, like, if you try and pin down the Morsar guard, you need to be charging your damage, they can, like, retreat and fly over you and charge something else instead. If you're too far away from him, you can send a missile in and get an extra, like, auto-run at 6, charge in. It's kind of flexible, but it's very aggressive, very surgical. It's a fun list, for sure. I was originally going to be playing something kind of similar to this, but I got tired of painting eels. I had to paint 21 eels and I'm 12 in, and I'm like, I am tired.
Oof.
Yeah. But my list is a little different, but like, there's similarities to it.
This is also a very max list.
It's a very max list.
So we have a joke because we play a game called Heroes of the Storm, where there's this character called Illidan Stormrage, where he's like a brawler going assassin, where like when he presses his like ult or his ultimate ability, you can just hear across the entire map when we're playing, feel the hatred of 10,000 years as he just charges you.
As he flies across the entire battlefield.
Yeah, flies across the entire map, and it comes down to he kills you or you kill him. It's very like straightforward.
It's very max.
Such a
This is the most
like-
max list ever. Where he's just like feel the age of 10,000 years, and he just goes all the way across the table, goes all in, and someone's dying. It's a really fun list though. I like it. I probably like it can be very matchup dependent. And honestly, Eels are not in the greatest spot right now. They're not bad, but they're like the points are awkward because you can see he's 1940, and that's just because like things don't line up well points wise in the book. So it's really tricky to try and fit models. And you end up with like weird numbers, and like you always feel like you're one model short. But if you play it right, it can be very good. So I hope he does well with it.
Yeah, this is a very feast or famine.
It's very feast or famine. We'll move on because it's a very simple list. There's not a ton to talk about because it's a spam list, kind of like mine was. We're going to go on to Nick, Paint God of 2022. Nick is showing up. He did win ITC Painting or Hobby Award last year.
Not last year, I think.
Or year before
2 years
that.
ago.
Year before that. 2 years ago.
2021. Yeah.
His armies are just absolutely gorgeous. Sylvaneth lists are weird. Is this the, no? It's just a regular Sylvaneth list. It's not playing the sub faction thing, right?
Yeah, regular Sylvaneth.
Okay.
Heartwood. So he's gonna pick 3 units, and he gets 3 enemy units, and he's gonna get +1 to hit for his whole army.
Okay, all right, yes, that one. All right, that makes sense. So he's got Belthanos, the new character, tons of cool abilities, pretty good at fighting, changes terrain up. The Durthu is like the big old slaughter machine. Green Gladys giving it +D3 attacks on its like 5 or 6 damage weapon. 6 damage weapon, right? Just makes it crazy.
5 damage weapon. Yeah.
Big stick. Big stick.
Beat stick.
Yeah,
Big
also the
green
artifact
stick.
Greenwood Gladius, I think you get to add D3 attacks
so I was just saying.
like before you fight, so yeah, so essentially what this it's a with Belthanos being a new like unit to the book, he started to appear in a lot of Sylvaneth lists because he's like probably the best and most well costed war scroll in Sylvaneth. Because usually the army's priced to be stupidly expensive, but Belthanos is actually reasonably expensive. He's 16 wounds on a 3-up save with a 5-up ward. He can make Sylvaneth units wholly within like 12 inches run and charge, and then he also fights extremely well in combat. Like if you just look at his combat profile, and just does a lot of damage. And then each hero phase, he can change a terrain feature to be another like mystical, wholly within 18. So okay, even better. Thank you, Grimlock619. Whoever, I probably know who you are, but I don't recognize your username. But yeah. So wholly within 18, and then Belthanos can also change a terrain rule. So let's say if a rule is like damned, he can change it to arcane. So he can give the Warsong Revenant another +1 to cast. So the Warsong Revenant, I think, still has the natural +1 to cast. Oh hey Nick, what's poppin'? So it'll be a +2 to cast, I think, on the Warsong Revenant, unless I'm wrong, Nick. But yeah, and also he has the command trait Spellsinger. I think Matt Abbott, you also play Sylvaneth, I think, so
Yeah.
if you could like chime in and explain some of the other rules, because I do know how the army works. I guess I'm just trying to like, but I think you know what the artifacts, the exact descriptions are. So yeah,
Yeah. So Spellslinger is gonna basically just let him treat any wildwood as an Umbral Spell Portal. He's gonna be able to cast a spell through it. Vespral Gem is gonna allow him on a roll of 2. I believe it's a roll of 2 to 6. He can just auto cast any spell from the Sylvaneth lore. On a 1, I think the gem goes away. So essentially, he's just going to be using it for the Warsong Bomb or a buff here and there.
Yeah, slamming mortal wounds across a large area through a tree. It's pretty damn good. It's a staple, I would say, of Sylvaneth play. Not every list has it, but I see it a lot.
Unfortunately, he's got a bit of a temporary. I can only imagine the temporary nerf where the bomb is only the casting roll itself. It can't be modified. You wouldn't be able to add primal dice to it, and you can't even add his own innate +1. But yeah, it's going to be, what's an average dice?
Yeah,
roll?
it's
7,
essentially
10? Yeah.
It's essentially he picks a tree, and I think any unit that's like within 9 inches of it takes just mortal wounds, depending on like if he rolls like a 5-up with like, let's say he casts it on a 9, so he's gonna roll 9 dice, and on 5-ups you just take a mortal wound. So
That's just going to be every unit around. So yeah, like you said, he's got Belthanos. What Belthanos is also kind of allowing him to do with Sylvaneth is they're so tricky with their Strike and Fade, the main mechanic. Normally, you're only really charging and fighting with one unit. With Belthanos, that's going to let you charge Belthanos himself, possibly let him stay in combat, grind it out, survive, and you can get that what's it called? You can Spirit of Durthu into fight, Strike and Fade with him, and then you've got Drycha, you can't forget in the back, shoot with all her shots.
Yeah, shooting away. And then you got these 3-inch Dryads that are just kind of taking up space, buying time for your guys to do their work and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, -1 to be hit and -1 to be wound is pretty insane buff.
Yeah, they can really they can buy up critical time because if you can get to Sylvaneth's key threats, they can oftentimes struggle, but these Dryads will buy a ton of time for him to work around. So it's a nice list. It's very balanced. It's not as extreme as a lot of lists I've seen for Sylvaneth. It seems like it has a very flexible game plan to it. Let's compare it to the other Sylvaneth.
Oh yeah, wait, before we do that, just to go on, as mentioned, go back to the list. The list also has Tree Song, so what he can essentially do with Warsong Revenant is to auto-cast extra Ren, so Durthu can be Ren 3, and then Belthanos can be Ren 4, so it lets the army hit very hard, while not being able to unbind the spell. In addition, they also have a warband called Skate's Wild Hunt, so what that does is essentially, I think it's it acts, so that unit can run and charge, can run and still shoot and charge. Also, it casts a spell where they could pick one Sylvaneth unit, and if the spell goes off, they can give a Sylvaneth unit +1 a wound. So it's a training piece that can act as a screen that also has a really good spell and utility.
That's cool. So it's just that whole flexible game plan going on here that I really like about this list, and it all plays into itself nicely. I want to compare it to Viet's list because I haven't looked at Viet's list actually for this event, but I'm used to him.
Yeah. Also, the list also has Drycha, where she can choose a attack mode where essentially she can get 20 attacks in shooting or melee or something like that.
Yeah.
Where on 6s to hit, it just does 1 mortal wound. Yeah. Especially, there's also she has a shooting attack where it's the bees attack. So you can have 20 shots, 3s and 3s, run 1 damage in addition to more wounds.
Not the bees. Not the bees.
Yeah,
the bees. So comparing Nick's list here to Viet's list, you're the other Sylvaneth player in this event. They both got the Spirit of Durthu with the Greenwood Gladius, we were just talking about. They both have Belthanos, so those are shared between them.
Action is also different though. So while Heartwood, they pick 3 units for the entire army to get +1 to hit against. Gnarroot, they can 3d6 cast spells.
Yeah. So you can get some better casting going on here, which is probably why he's bringing Lady of Vines, because she has a really amazing spell where she can give an AoE 5-up ward save. So Naru giving the 3d6 cast makes that much more likely to go off. And there's a lot of casters going on here, so
his season's letting him reroll 1 casting roll, 1 per turn as well.
Okay,
a little bit more consistency.
Yeah, so getting that consistent key critical spells off that really are super impactful for the game. They both have the same 3s of Dryads and Tree Evidence is the same here. So these are the shared parts. So the difference is better. So there's 2 Branch Witches, little casting characters, utility characters, doing small caster stuff like Blizzard, various buffs that they can do. And then there's also a Celestant Prime. I think Prime is amazing with Sylvaneth personally, because he just sits in the sky until you need him to come down, and you're playing this avoidant game, running around the table, and then when you need that hammer to come in, it just comes in, guarantees a charge, guarantees a play. Because sometimes Sylvaneth can really struggle with their dice may be likely to succeed, but there's a ton of situations where it's on a 2-up it succeeds, but really it's on a 1 you lose. Because it's you're only rolling 1 dice, and it's super critical. And I think the Prime is great because it gives you a guaranteed play where you're not relying on that single critical dice roll that you oftentimes find yourself in with Sylvaneth. That's what damage is great. That's great, but I think that's really what he brings.
He's a nice flanking unit that opponents can't ignore.
Yeah, and he does play similarly to the Durthu and Belthanos and that tanky brawling unit. So you do have more of these threats, but I like the way he fits into this list.
Also, some neat tech with how the branch witches are. So the branch witches actually have a spell on their war scroll where they have a spell where they have the explosion like the Warsong Remnant does. And just to explain to the lingo of some people who are like don't like new to SoCal chat or the community, we have a lingo called Sexplosion because one of our players, Roberto, was playing Sylvaneth a lot, and he would just always say Sexplosion, which is just, I guess, just, Sylvaneth or spreading the seed, not to be too vulgar, but it's one of our, like, private jokes. So, yeah, so Branch Witches actually have, like, a little Sexplosion spell that they can use. Not as good as the Warsong Remnant spell, but it's still there. So it gives this army a lot of, like, options to, like, cast that, then cast
and he does have
Tree
the spell
Song Remnant.
so you can do it through, through the trees,
Veridan Blessing, and then also addition, one of the Branch Witches has Blizzard, so...
comparing the list and like what I like and don't like about them, because they share some units, but the differences between them, I like that Nick's list has like a lot of, a little bit more like body, I don't know how to describe it, like it's a little bit more brawling going on that can do consistently, like, it's more forgiving, whereas Viet's list, it has like, I think it has a higher ceiling of power, and he's had to build all these guarantees though because it is riskier. Like playing.
Viet's list is arguably tankier with the 5 board.
Yeah, it's tankier, but I'm saying like it has like these critical points that need to go off. If they do, his list is incredible, and he's made it so it's very, very likely. But there's definitely accommodations being made for there. But when it goes off, it's super good. Like, the 5 ward is so powerful in this army because your saves are already really good and you're healing all the time. So like when he goes off, and he has the Gnar Root, he has the Dwindling, he's got all these abilities that are like feeding into it, and he's got Acolytes as well.
Also, another thing that Viet's mentioning with Lady Binds, once per game she gets somebody Dryads for free. So this list actually has a little more wounds than like it looks.
Yeah, I was like, I remembered it having more, and I was like, wait, there's only this many? I thought there was more. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but I will say that the biggest shout out though is Belthanos is probably gonna be a mainstay in Sylvaneth list because he's well costed. While like in my opinion, the problem with Sylvaneth is that like a lot of its war scrolls are like too expensive, so you're really trying to squeeze for every like point you can. Where Belthanos just fits perfectly because he's just damn good at what he does.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both interesting lists. I find Sylvaneth impossible to predict how they're going to place because it's such a skill-intensive game every time. Their matchups can be very polarizing, so I have no idea how they're going to do. But I hope they do well, and I also hope I get to fight at least one of them because I like.
None of you guys are playing Thigh Queen though, especially Nick.
I know I missed the Thigh Queen.
Yeah.
All right, so we have one more list to do. Sarah Livingston's Stormcast Eternals. This is the final list of the tournament.
The only Stormcast list, too.
The only Stormcast list. And does anyone here want to specifically talk about this list, or are we just talking as a group?
Let me see. I
have played against it as well, so like I do know what it does, but it's just... Yeah. I guess I want to talk about Sarah for a bit. Every time I've watched her play, she's always like pulling plays out that I don't see coming, at least. Like I'm like very making weird situations work, and like and the list like looks a collection of stuff, but it does play really well together. I just want to say like that's like a thing I've noticed about her.
She's also joined our community recently because I know she plays in the San Diego area, and she's now playing a lot of the AOS RTs and GTs. And despite like her like going into like the sea lion pit of SoCal, she like learns from her like losses and wins, and she's like becoming a better player every time she goes to
very quickly. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I mean, also Stormcast isn't like the easiest army to play, especially because compared to the other armies in the meta, and I commend her for sticking with like this army in the face of like what's out there, and because Stormcast is a very like it's an honest army nowadays.
Yeah.
Or I mean, Stormcast do have tricks and everything, but it's very like it's like I guess how Space Marines are in like 40k, where it's like it's very like it's the poster boy army. It's the very like I don't even know if I would call it beginner's army, to be honest. Even though I know they market it as the beginner's army, but it's still
it's very fundamentally fair, and that's actually hard to win with. Like, because you have to win off of like many small decisions, and this list does that. So like, Iona's Cryptborn has like a lot of small nuances of like how to like really get the most out of him, and a lot of like little utilities all over the place. And like, if you use them all properly, very powerful. But if you don't, he's a lot of points that's not giving you much. And there's a lot of things like that in this list.
So I can go over the Stormcast list. So since I know like a hefty amount of it, so to start off, it's Stormcast Scions of the Storm. So she can put half of her army in the sky, and they can come down. They can be held in reserve until I think about turn 4, where they have to come down. So it protects the army from like a lot of alpha strikes or like shooting, and it can come down on its own terms. At least only half of it can. And then it hammers a Sigmar, so if any Stormcast unit is wholly within 12 of an objective, they get a 6 of ward. So a lot of the army is on a flat 3-up save, but one of the weaknesses of Stormcast is that it doesn't have any save against mortal wounds. But that is where the sub-faction comes in, just to bail them out, just to add more defensive stats. Because even though Stormcast is like a basic army, it's also, but because it's meant to be like a beginner's army, it's like it's good defensively, it's good offensively, and it's just consistent. Not a lot of
Yeah, I was gonna say the thing about Stormcast is functionally they have no allegiance abilities. Like, okay, cool, you have deep striking and you have a 6-up ward on units. Cool. Everyone else does. Strength of Stormcast is going to come from the War Scrolls. Every War Scroll in Stormcast is at least semi-functional, and when you have a player who knows the War Scrolls, and like Aaron, like you're saying, when you know the nuances, the little tricks you can pull out here and there, you can pull out some upsets.
Yeah. Like the Knight Incantor's auto unbind can be like one of those things where if you use it right, man, is it powerful. If you use it at the wrong time, it's like, who cares? And there's a lot of things like that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so to go over Ionis, sorry to interrupt. So essentially Ionis is a priest, and it is 16 wounds on a 3-up save. So very tanky. Like, it's not, definitely you have to commit a good amount of investment to kill this guy. And then in addition, outside of being a priest, he actually has a shit ton of rules. So I'm actually going to start from the top. So in the combat phase,
just like a 10-page war scroll.
It's a really good war scroll. So starting off at the start of the combat phase, you can pick one enemy unit within 3 inches and make that unit -1 to attacks. So it makes them. There's another layer of defense that like is there, and then each time, there's a rule called Spirit Scour Flames, where if he shoots a unit and it's 9 attacks, 3s and 3s, rend 2/1 damage, they get soul burned, and at the end of each hero phase, if the rolls, they have to roll a dice. If the roll is equal to or less in the battle round, they just take D3 mortal wounds, and they're soul burned for the rest of the game unless you have a way to heal that unit or hero. So there's like chip damage they have, and then another thing that makes this hero very good is that within 12 inches, and the base is on a 100mm base, you cannot receive rally or inspiring presence. So it's just this big aura of just no inspiring presence, and I think it helps Stormcast with the Horde matchup, because usually Stormcast struggles to deal with like lots of bodies or wound density, but if you cannot take Battle Shock, then you just run away. And just can't deal with it. And in addition, you're also an Arch-Lector, where you can chant 2 prayers instead of doing 1, or you can instead of chanting 2 prayers, you can choose to do 1 prayer but automatically get it off. So that's what makes it really good. So for example, she has the teleport translocation. So if she wants to do 1 prayer, she can just do it for free. Like, you just auto teleport someone, or auto give someone a 6-up ward, or auto do Lightning Tempest, which is the prayer on the War Scroll where you just do a bunch of D3 mortal wounds. So very solid. And then in addition, at the start of the enemy hero phase, you can pick one endless spell or an invocation within 12 inches, and you roll a dice. On a 2-up, it goes away. So it's perfect into things like Khorne, where like usually you can't unbind their invocations, but Ionis is like a hard counter. So yeah, I know we're taking a lot of time to talk about Ionis because the War Scroll is literally like almost like 10 pages, but like it is an important part of this list, because Ionis is he's kind of like Belfados, where he's just consistent, like on his own. He's just there to like support the army
with a ton of nice utility that synergizes with the rest of this list. And the rest of this list, I feel like, is basically like a series of medium units that all work together to support this like 5-turn game plan, and like it's just resilient, it's flexible, it's lacking a little bit of raw power in some ways. It doesn't. It's not, it has power, but it's not like it doesn't have like giga hammers. It has a bunch of things that do like medium damage that are pretty hard to get rid of that have good utility. And
they're good at doing its job, basically. Yeah. So to go over the other stuff, Lord Castellan can pick one unit just to give it a +1 of save, so it can make something into a 2-up save. So even harder to remove. Knight and Cantor is the general to cast Celestial Blades with Master of Magic, so you can re-roll to cast +1 a wound to give to a unit, and then Mirror Shield means that the general cannot be targeted unless you're within 9 inches, so which helps with the Grand Strat spell casting Savant. And then the list has Tempestors, which is it has a lot of shots, and then just a lot of shooting with just regular shots, and then mortal wound shots, and then fights pretty well. And then it has Vanguard Raptors Long Strike, so once per game they can shoot in the hero phase. So just pick off a foot hero or something. And then it has Storm Drake Guard, which are just 2 dragons where they're like a tank. They're kind of like a consistent piece where they just like they tank, they fight okay, they sometimes fight well, and can do some mortal wounds. But it's not so no opponent can ignore anything in this list because anything in this list can trade.
But there's also like not a lot of clear targets on what to focus. It's like it's very flexible in that way. Like you can't just remove one piece and it falls apart. One thing we've mentioned before a couple times I do like about this list is it plays in all the phases of the game. It plays in the hero phase, it plays in the movement phase, it plays in the shooting phase, charging, it does a bunch of stuff with that. Fights combat well, and it cares about the battle shock phase and has things there. So it's like you're getting edges in every phase. It doesn't lean into any one thing. That makes it very hard to play optimally because there's so many small decision points. But I do think it's a good list. And I like to watch it play. I think that's...
Yeah, I think that's all the list.
I think that's everything there. So, that's all the list for the thing. I'm super excited for the tournament. It's going to be really fun. I hope I do well, but that's not the point even.
Yeah, so as the TL, I'm actually really excited. So the prizes are getting done, and it's being like revealed soon. So I can probably show off one of them tonight, and then you'll see the others in the next couple of days, including the grand prize. And it's nice to be able to like organize this small town throwdown event for the SoCal region, because outside of Old Town Throwdown, we have some little GTs, but sometimes we have to travel out of state to go to another event. So I decided to take it upon myself to like host an event, because not only do I like hosting, but I also like seeing all of my friends in this whole community. And, now we even have new players joining us, just playing, 5 games of just like fun-ass Age of Sigmar. And then, so I think, this event is also meant to be in like an LVO practice. So people can test their LVO list, see how it does, and then depending on what the result is, they can submit their list. So there's also going to be a lot of prizes for not only the winners, but there's also going to be like prizes for like even for last place Golden Spoon, best overall, best sportsman, and all kinds of like stuff. So whoever's attending an event, you'll see. I'll be posting pictures because I'm a social media freak. But and I think I think to have one last discussion, if you were to have one list that you think will win the event, and here's a challenge for all 3 of us, you cannot pick the same list. Who do you think will win the event? And maybe a little tidbit of why. To like wrap it up.
Let's have Matt go first. There's 2 Matts. Abbott.
Okay, my top choice. I'm gonna probably stick with my original thought earlier and go with Ben Hoskins with the snake spam. Solid player, solid list. Yeah, don't know what else to say.
Yeah, lots of recursion too, so it's not like easy to deal with.
Yeah, my pick is Kyle. I think his list is super good. It also is very good into some of the other top players at the event. Like, the snake list loses to it, for example. Like, it's they've played that matchup. Like, it's very, if they fight each other, and they're likely to because they're probably going to be in the winner's bracket most of the time. Like I think Kyle's going to come out on top. I wouldn't be surprised if he just 4-1s, but like he's either going to 4-1 or 5-0. Like I would be shocked if he does any worse than that. There's other good players, but that's my pick.
My personal pick, and even though he makes fun of me a lot and just like says how bad of a player I am, I'm actually gonna pick Eugene. With his 60 shooters and 36 swing herd to like possibly be another contender at taking the title because he's mastered that list over the past couple 6 months. He's actually a part of the he plays as like one of the reserves for, like the Russian Worlds team, so he gets a lot of good practice. He plays with us, he's become a much better player from when he joined us like a year ago after he moved from Russia, and then that gift list has just like a lot of recursion, a lot of wounds, plays a little bit like the zombies list, and can get tactics and grand strat. So like even though some of the other lists like Kyle or like Ben Hoskins' list can give it a run for its money, I think it has a good shot of like aiming for the title. And even though a decent amount of people are probably like thinking Kyle could take it, I don't know. We might get a surprise this weekend, so we'll see.
Yeah, I would. Both those answers, both you guys' answers are also good. Like those would all be in my top 5 people I would expect to win. So I agree with that, and everything you said makes a lot of sense. I kind of hope he does win because he keeps like getting a draw. Like on a hard game, when like if he had one more point, he would like win a tournament. So I kind of hope he gets it. Just like how Kyle kept getting 4-1s forever. That'd be cool to see. And his list is dope.
I feel like Kyle and Eugene actually have the same kind of weakness in that the fact that it's a 2-day event.
Yeah, 3-0 day one always. Yeah, it'd be cool to see who does well in this. Well, obviously we'll update as things go on stuff after this weekend. Only Kyle can beat Kyle. He's too nice.
Yeah, only Kyle can beat Kyle. And I guess, I know I said that, that's maybe our last question before we wrap it off, but do we all have a favorite list that, like, if we could, our favorite list, regardless of how, like, wacky it is, of how, like, maybe bad it is, or, like, just outright fun? Like, who are your guys' like picks for that?
Bone Splitters.
And you can pick the same list. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna pick Bone Splitters. I like the Double Crush It list. It brought like nostalgia for one, and it just seems fun, and it's the right mix of techie and explosive and cool.
I'm just saying, we have a real Rage Reduce Wolves to Yellowstone kind of moment. We can bring back the Bone Splitters.
Yeah, so you make a movement. Bring back. Don't let Bone Splitters just stay in Old World. Let them be in both games. They're beautiful models. And then, so my personal pick is actually, I actually really like the Seraphon list that Brian Horton is bringing with the Kawato's Claw, because not only does he have a lot of, like, melee and, like, just tankiness in that list, he also has Proc just to back it up, where he can just cast spells and do a good amount of more wounds. So I wouldn't be, and the list is actually, like, really well, like, made, so I wouldn't be surprised if, he ended up being a dark horse. But, we'll see.
Too. I do like that list a lot as well.
Yeah, and I think with the SoCal community, like there's a lot of good players in this event, so it's actually going to be really hard to get like a 5-0, 4-1. So
super hard. It's a very, very competitive community. So whoever wins is going to definitely earn it, and it's amazing practice for LVO as well. So excited to see how it turns out. I think I'm going to call it here. We've been streaming for like 3.5 hours. So part of it was just on a waiting screen, but still, it was a great talk. Hopefully, people learned stuff. And,
thanks for everybody that's sat and watched us for the past like 3 hours. I know we actually got up to like 21 at our peak, and I think because we were going to bed, it's like died down to 6. But happy that all of you stuck around, and we're also going to upload this video later to YouTube. So anyone wants to watch again, or anyone that wants to catch up, you're more than free to like give us views.
All right, boys, signing off for the night.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Lit.